with all the COVID-related issues, we are trying to keep everything as normal as we can, and hopefully we are trying to be a little bit entertaining while you're housebound or social distancing at least. So it's not that we don't think this is an important subject, it's just we are not experts in that subject. So we're going to do another subject that we're not experts in, and we're going to try to keep this to cars and racing. So appreciate you guys listening to our podcast. Thank you.
Bye.
Or hello.
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 From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical. Our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes and Training Podcast. I'm going to be your host for this episode, and my name is, I don't know, we're going to go with Bill this time. Who do we have?
I'm Vicki.
I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Alan.
All right.
I didn't get my sign.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, very well. New Jersey,
Okay.
hello. All right, as usual, 101 episodes. Still can't do an introduction, but we're working on it. That's why we have in training in our title. So with us, we have one of our favorite guests for the podcast. We have, he represents Double Nickel 9 Motorsports, which I haven't figured out exactly what the Double Nickel 9 is. The Double Nickel, I think I got a chance, but the 9's confusing me. He started out in Lemons. He worked through Champ Car and Chump Car. He has technically, I guess, in quotes, worked his way up, and he competes against cars that are much faster now. I think he still comes down to our level every now and then, and he puts up with our banter, occasionally listening to the podcast. And right now, he is on a streak of 4 National Honda Challenge Championships, and we are on a streak of entering 4 straight races. So there's a little bit of a gap between our performance and his performance. Just in case you're curious if that was a one-time event, he not only has won the championship 4 times, but he's actually had 2 cars podium each year as well, just to make sure. It's kind of like backing up your record. So with that, we'd like, I know, who knew? It's like one more than Amanda. So with that, we'd like to welcome Rob Krider.
Hello, thank you for having me on the podcast. This is a huge honor to be a part of Garage Heroes in Training, so I appreciate you phoning me in today.
Wow, it's not only a
Yay! Just leave it at that, Bill. Just leave it at that.
Just
It's
to
good.
go. Yeah. So,
Let it go.
I've got more. He's not only a good driver, but he can lie with a straight face and say it's an honor to be on our podcast. So anyway, so with that, Rob, just in case I left something out, is there anything else that our listeners would like to know about you?
No, I think you covered it. I think what's interesting when you talked about how we've won 4 national championships and you guys have been in 4 races, and there's that sort of bookend between the beginning of your road racing time and 24 Hour of Lemons, which is the same for us, and then the end zone being a national championship in any series. It could be any different series. The journey is the most fun part. So we started out just like you. Our first ever road race was a 24 Hour of Lemons race. So I'm definitely along lines with what you guys are doing at Garage Heroes and Training. And so I really enjoy kind of seeing you go through the process and bang on wheel bearings and make all the mistakes we've all made, busting knuckles in the middle of the night and not having the gas can full of gas when you needed it at a pit stop, whatever it is. We've done it, and so we learn from all those experiences in the 24 Hour Lemons and just tried to get better and better, and then ultimately moved on to NASA and won some races.
So are you saying perhaps there's hope for us?
Absolutely. There's hope. You guys are working harder at it than most people. You're trying to learn and improve, which I'm a big fan of. I'm all about really just getting better and better. And so the fact that that's sort of your mindset as a team means you will be more successful than a lot of the teams you're racing against in Lemons right now.
Someday.
Well, we try.
One
We try very
day.
hard. We try very hard. We laugh along the way, but we
do.
try very hard.
That's true.
Okay.
So, Rob, you're not only a racer, you also do some writing. We've read several of your articles. Vicky's ordered or ordering your book.
I am.
Is there other stuff that you're involved with that you're allowed to do besides winning race cars?
Yes, yes. So, well, first of all, I want to thank you for reading those stories. That means you and my dad have read them. So that's two people. So I appreciate that. My team gives me a hard time because they're of the opinion that when I write these articles for NASA Speed News Magazine or Turnology or Jalopnik or Speed Sport Life, I write for a bunch of different titles, that I'm kind of giving away all the team's secrets. But I tell them over and over again, race car drivers don't read. So ultimately, it's not no one's getting all these good ideas. I mean, maybe you guys are reading them because your title is in training and you're trying to learn. And so that's really what all the columns I write are about. Are really just some of the things we've learned over the years and making our team a little bit better. Everything from organizing our tools a certain way or building our trailer a certain way to how we build our engines to driver development. I mean, really, it's the full gamut of running an endurance racing team. So we put all that together, and then we made a documentary film called Double Down, which I'm super proud of, which really shows kind of our team in action at the 25 Hours of Thunder Hill. So that was really fun to make and be a part of.
Wow.
It was I think the best part about it, and I'm not saying that the video and the audio and everything else involved with it, I don't know what you call it, movie, was that you guys actually made that from within your own team. It wasn't like you had somebody follow you around and put it together for you. It's just homegrown, kind of like a Lemons car, and it just came out so well that I feel even worse about the YouTube channel that we have.
Well, I have a feeling that Bill might be leaning in that direction now.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, I appreciate you saying that about Double Down because really we're immensely proud of it because it was homegrown. We don't have a budget to pay for a $30,000 production that's what it costs to make, and we do everything ourselves. So we make our own T-shirts, we make our own cars, we make our own stickers, we build our own stuff, we make our own videos. Everything we do we do it ourselves. We really don't farm anything out. We work with a lot of industry partners who help us, and we really help work with them to develop parts sometimes, which is a great learning experience. But Double Down really was the culmination of, hey man, let's just put GoPro cameras on everything. We'll feed all this live audio from the cars during this incredibly dynamic 25-hour race, and then just see what happens. And then, luckily we had an ending, and the ending was, we got on the podium and we beat the factory Mazda team, which was a huge honor for us as just Lemons racers who beat a factory team at one of the biggest races in the world. That was just like the greatest thing ever. And plus, I blew a motor up and we had to do a swap in the middle of the night, and that made for some action and some fun. So it was a good show.
Yeah.
So while we're here, having watched the entire video, I believe you have a new nickname. It's something around right foot, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes. So my nickname was made that night, Rob Right Foot Krider. I have personally, under my right foot, destroyed. I think I'm up to my 6th motor at this point. I've lunched a lot of motors.
So proud of you.
So I think it's an honor, really. It's either checker or wrecker with me. I either win a championship or I nuke a motor. I really know second place.
No in between.
Ricky Bobby, baby. Ricky Bobby.
No, it's absolutely. There's a lot of Ricky Bobby on my team. A lot of, if you ain't first or last, we really believe in that. That's actually part of the problem with our racing team is, so on 24 Hour Lemons, it's good to have a really good theme, and there's been some really great themes, and, Jeff Speedy Cop has the best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But our theme was, incorrectly, it was professional racing team. That was our theme. Like, we wanted to be a racing team. And Lemons didn't really love that. All we wanted to do was win. We wanted to look like we were at Le Mans. And so, we were all about winning. And that was a lot of pressure on us to beat, 183 cars in one race. So that's a big lift. And we did it. But ultimately, some of the fun was kind of taken away when it was just like gun to the head, we will win or nothing else. So we've tried to work through that and have some fun as well.
Oh.
So
So
you're working on having fun.
yeah, for us, we're just in the fun right now. We haven't really kind of
We're
working.
just working on getting better.
Yeah, and we're
Good,
just
good.
getting there. So how did you get the racing bug? I mean, where did you start?
Good question. So my grandpa raced circle track in the valley in California in the 40s. My dad did some go-kart racing, and then I just wanted to be a race car driver. I grew up on films like, Gumball Rally and Cannonball Run and Smoking the Bandit. Like, I just always had this kind of automotive culture at my house and just loved everything about cars and car stuff. And I wanted to be like, basically Burt Reynolds, right? He's the coolest dude ever when I was a kid. So what do I got to do to be Burt Reynolds? So I did whatever I could. Like, so for me, it was drag racing at the local drag strip. For $10 on a Wednesday night, you could go out and drag race, and that kept me off the street. I do not support street racing in any way. Do it on the track. And then I wanted to do some more, so I did some, gimmick rally stuff, and I did some autocross stuff, and then anything I could do. I didn't have the money. My last name is not Andretti, it's Krider, so there's no money behind that. So we had to just do what we could. Anything you could do with a regular car and a helmet and like $50, we did it. So, hill climb, demolition derby, kind of crazy things we did. And then autocross, I think, is where I really learned just the art of driving and car control, and then worked my way up through that, running national tour events, national championship events. But the thing was, for me, it was like, this is all cool, but I really want to go road racing. Like, what can we do to go road racing? But that leap is so big. That means a dedicated race car with a cage in it. It means a truck and a trailer. It means just a place to store all that stuff. It means enormous entry fees. Autocrosses cost $35. Road races cost $500. So that was a big lift for us. We, like I said, we don't have that famous last name with money. And then all of a sudden, I open up Car and Driver one day, and there's this crazy race called the 24 Hour of Lemons. It's like, an hour and a half from where I live. And I'm thinking to myself, how did we miss this? Like, I can't believe we weren't already there. What do we got to do? So then really we became you guys. We all teamed up and bought a car for $500. And we got a team of 6 guys. No, we did buy it for $500. Listen, we had 5,000 in it before we were done. I'm not going to lie to you, but we bought it for $500 initially. We really did teach everyone how to make parts look old that were brand new. Like, we'd buy brand new parts, we'd drag them around and let them rust outside, and we'd slap them on the car. We did a lot of stuff like that. So we may have swapped parts out after tech. I won't admit to any of the stuff on the podcast, but I have a reputation for some loose rule stuff with Lemons, and there are some rules that are our fault, my team's fault. We've made the Lemons book and the Chump Car book bigger because of us. Some of the things we did. But that was fun. But anyway, so Lemons, we got to go and road race because this guy could weld and this guy could build motors. This guy had an extra set of wheels. And so we all just worked together, piled all our money together on one car. And then suddenly we're a team and we're road racing. So that was how we made it. Oh, it was the best ever.
Was it incredible?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The best thing that ever happened to me. Totally the best, most fun. Awesome.
So what you're saying is it was step 1, get car, step 2, domination? Is that how it goes?
Yeah. So we won our second race.
Nice.
We won the second race.
Oh, there you go.
So it's that easy.
Yeah. There you go.
Step 1, step 2.
We're stuck in between. We've added lots of steps between 1 and 2. There's 1.001, 1.002.
Yeah, there's a lot of decimal points in there for sure.
Yeah.
So, what other types of races have you competed in? Like you've done Le Mans, you've done the 24 Hours of Lemons, you've done, you said the autocross,
Champ Car, autocross.
Yeah, so I've done autocross. I've done open road races like the Silver State Classic in Las Vegas. I've done hill climbs. I've done demolition derbies. I've done dirt race circle track. I've played with some go-karts a little bit. I've done 20, obviously the 25 hours, some road racing with NASA at the regional and national level. So anything I can get my hands on, I just jump in it and try to drive it as fast as I can until I blow the motor up or we win. One or the other.
So how many cars have you actually had?
Whoa.
Now you're fighting dirty.
That's deep. I mean, I currently have 5 race cars right now. You know what I mean? But that's a problem. I'm selling one of them right now, so that's good. But for Honda Challenge, we built 3 cars. We raced 2 of them. We have a team of 2 drivers. But the issue is that I learned early on, even at Lemons, we always brought a second car. So I'm a big proponent of what we call the parts car. So we always bring the exact make and model of whatever we're racing to the track. And then that car is usually cannibalized during the weekend because you could always think about all the spares you guys need for your E36, right? Like I need a new wheel bearing, I need this. You just bring one rolling chassis, and then next thing you know, everything you need is right there in one spot.
Look at that.
Wow.
Bill.
Listen. She's the one who stops me from buying cars.
Well, we got to get rid of some cars.
And now she's sitting there saying, "Oh,
buy
you need to go
different
get another
cars."
one."
So we could actually just bring the donor car with us.
See, the
Yes.
problem you have.
This donor car sits right next to our car, or when we're working on.
So the problem you have is that will work nicely when you have a car that is one car homologated into another.
I know.
But when you have a car that is the combination of a Chevy S10 and a Isuzu Hombre,
Yeah.
Oldsmobile Bravada, and a Corvette this, and it's hard for me to bring that many spare
Well,
cars.
and granted, he's saying, well, we always bring 2 cars to the track. We actually bring 2 running cars, and they're opposite. But when you were saying proponent of bringing two cars to the racetrack, I'm like, well, that's what we do. We never thought about one being the donor car. That's
then Bill
awesome.
ends up like
What a great
taxi
tip
on
out there,
weekends at
guys.
the parts store.
No. Allow me to say we've thought about it. I just didn't want to get the feedback from the CFO of the team. That was where the plan stopped.
Well,
I will
maybe
say
in
that
our
it is
future.
absolutely the recipe for success, especially in a long endurance race where you don't want to be running around town looking for a you pick it, you pull it, whatever to find a lower control arm for whatever car. Just have that on a deal. At some races, we've had actually, cars that were registered, and my wife would drive them to the racetrack. Then we totally cannibalized them, and then we had to figure out how to get them home when they had no, suspension. So that's a challenge later to deal with. But all you want to do is get to the race, and you'll figure all those details out later.
Yeah, but what a great tip. Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
So can I
That's
go
what
buy
I'm here
another
for.
car?
Yeah.
We might
yeah,
have to
she
roll
said
the
yes.
donor car. We might have to roll the donor car up. Okay.
Okay, very
So-
well. I'm buying a car, so I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great podcast. Bye.
On to Craigslist. Bring a trailer. Let's do
That's
it.
right. So, why do you choose, or how do you choose your cars for racing?
Great question. So for us, when we really were starting out the 24-hour Lemons, we were looking for performance because we were just race car minded. So we originally landed with 1991 Nissan Sentra SER. And the reason we liked that car was it was kind of a factory race car that they built. So it had a 2-liter motor, it had a limited slip differential, it had 4-wheel disc brakes. It had a lot of performance in a very little car that we could really get for $500. And there was industry support that built go fast parts for this car. So for us, we're like, I don't want to have to really, I didn't have the fabrication skills personally to just cobble together the S10 Corvette, Impala, whatever that you guys are talking about. We had to bolt on stuff that would literally bolt on because we didn't know how to do anything else at the start. So we try to keep it simple. What's a car that can get the job done? What has industry support? What's inexpensive? What is a car currently there's a lot of in the junkyard? So at the time, like when we raced the Acura Integra, we run the DA Integra. There's a lot of those and you pull it right now. So we get fenders, parts, extra cars very inexpensively. So for us, we were very budget minded. We just always had to watch that bottom dollar because we just didn't have the budget to just throw money in the air and buy cool stuff. We had to buy inexpensive stuff that we could fix and bolt things on. And they were lightweight and quick. So the Nissan Sentra was SER was the obvious choice. Acura Integra was our second choice. We've run both those cars for years and years.
And how do they work on the racetrack? I mean, how well are they?
Well, we've won 4 national championships with the Acura Integra, so they work very good.
Yeah, so you're still working on it, I guess.
Yeah, we're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
But you do bring up a good point. One of the disadvantages to our cars is the fact that they're front-wheel drive. And
Okay.
so that makes them easier to drive. However, we're asking that front tire to do everything. It has to accelerate for us. It has to brake for us. It has to turn for us, which
Right.
means we'll wear out front tires faster than a rear-wheel drive car will. Because that rear-wheel drive car is using the rear tires to accelerate. It's using the front tires to turn. It's sharing some of that hard work. And literally, we call it the friction circle with the tire in the asphalt surface. And we destroy that. So when we run the 25 hours Thunder Hill, there are very specific rules in regards to you can only change 1 tire at a time in the actual hot pit. So we're always destroying the right front tire around Thunder Hill. So we have to be creative to decide like how are we going to move weight around in the car or how are we going to just change essentially the cross weight to save that front tire. This is something that people who race Miatas just don't have a problem with. And that means that it also limits us to the amount of performance we can get out of a tire. So Miata guys will run a Hoosier. We have to run a harder tire like a Toyo because if we had a Hoosier on there, an AO52, I can't remember, a Hoosier sticky tire, the race tire, it will be dead within an hour on the front of our car. And we really don't have the budget to buy that many Hoosier tires. So we switched to a Toyo tire. It's a little harder, but still a good race tire. We run Lemons. we've run all the 200 treadwear tires. So we've run everything from, we started with the Falcon Azeni, we moved on to the Dunlop Dureza. Now we're on the Yokohama AO52, which I'm a huge fan of, very good tire. What was the other one we ran? Whatever the hot one was, we ran it.
Hankook RS4.
No, I never did the Hankook. I haven't done that one yet. Just haven't played with that one yet.
You'll never go back.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard good things.
They're nice.
They are.
Now, I don't, just so we can just add something. What is the 25 hour? Is that the all the way around the clock, the one that Mental did?
The one that Mental did.
Yes.
The one that Sam Smith did.
Yeah. Well,
The one that
I know
talked
we were
about
talking
3 times.
No.
The one that Double Down's about.
The one that Double Down's about.
Well, I didn't see the Double Down one. Bill had seen Double Down, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what it was called.
Then
I
think
know
it's
we've
a
talked
NASA
about it, but I didn't look
25
it up.
hour.
Right.
Yeah, it's United States Air Force and NASA 25 hours of Thunder Hill. It's run the first weekend every year of December. What's super
Right.
cool about the race is it has 6 classes. So the E3 class is really Spec Miata, Honda Challenge, Lemons racers, Champ Car racers,
Right.
Lucky Dog racers. The ESR class are basically Daytona prototypes and
Mhm.
GT3 Porsches. So you're racing for 25 hours all the way around the clock, and you're going to win your own
Right.
class, and you're trying not to get run over by GT3 Porsches. So the differential speed in that race is probably the most exciting and dangerous part of it, because I'm going into turn 1 at like maybe 105 miles an hour. The GT3 Porsche is coming in at maybe like 145. So you got to
Mhm.
watch out for each other.
Right. I just didn't associate the name with the race, so my bad.
It's the one where Sam was talking about where they had
Yeah.
the mud line and the.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So did you
What's cool about the race is because it's in December every year, it's off season for all the pros. So it's kind of the pros and schmoes event. A lot of pro drivers run in the 25 hour, which is kind of cool for us to say like, oh, I ran against this guy, or I ran
Yeah.
against whatever. Like it's kind of a neat thing to be out there with them at the same time. Randy Pope, who you guys have run with, he runs it all
Right.
the time.
Nice.
So it's kind of cool for us amateur dudes to say we ran with these guys, and
Yeah.
sometimes we beat them, so which is even better, right?
the big dogs.
I've been
does
beaten by
everybody
better.
have a certain position on the team or like a certain responsibility, or do you guys share that responsibility? Like Alan does a lot of our mechanic work, but
and he's our teacher at the
He's our
same time
teacher.
when it comes to it.
yeah.
So you definitely need an Allen. Every team needs an Allen. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
Are you an Alan?
pretty important.
I've got
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
So that's a great question in regards to really the I would call the structure of our team, the management of our team. So when it first started, we were just 6 dudes who wanted to go to 24-hour lemons. We were crazy enough to put $1,000 each in to build this Nissan Sentra. And then over time, we kind of each developed our own component. Like, okay, this guy's great at motors, so he's going to be the motor guy. This guy's great at suspension. This guy's great at just organizing the team. This person's great at making sure we have radios that work and getting gas cans. This guy's wealthy. He can buy stuff. And me, I'm really none of those things. I'm just sort of the party planner, right? So my job is just to organize, orchestrate, and put us all on the same page so we could be successful. So what do we need to do to put our best assets forward, and who's going to do what? And the biggest thing we did was really just like logistics. So we have somebody who just cooks for us and takes care of the crew and makes sure everyone has a place to sleep and has food. And we have a guy who just gets gas and just does tires. So as we went to the 25 hours Thunder Hill, things got a lot more ramped up and a little more hectic than a 24-hour lemon race. But really, it's the same operation. You're just trying to keep the car on the track and going around as much as you can, not have a failure, and then crush souls and win the race and have champagne sprayed on you.
So this isn't an audio podcast, but I just want you to tell Vicki, I want to see her face. How many people did you have on your team for the 25 hour?
60 people.
60.
Oh, 60 people? What did they
But it
all
was-
do?
2-car effort.
Okay.
Watch Double
Well, you
Down.
get-
Everybody in Double Down had a job, and they tell you what their job is. We had a guy who just ran around and ran batteries to radios to spotters. We had one person whose job was all night long to fill gas cans with gas. We had one guy whose job all night long was to take tires to the tire shop and put fresh rubber on. Like, we have 2 cars running for 25 hours. That's 50 hours of racing. That is a huge lift.
Yeah.
Bill, you said there'd be no math, Bill. Bill, you said
No
there'd be
math.
You said
That's
there'd
why
be
that's why you're not one of the 60.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a lot. Well, yeah, I could see running all that time straight, but that's huge amount of people. That's awesome.
Yeah. So he's a logistical where he's in a logistical nightmare, and he must be a logistical magician.
Yes.
So I can't even herd my
Sure,
team
yeah.
of 12 cats. So
Oh, come on. Come on,
No,
we
you do
pretty
well. You do well.
So what's your street race car history? Like, what was your street cars? What did you start with? You talked about doing autocross. What car were you autocrossing in?
So my first car was a 78 El Camino that I did some drag racing with. And then I built an MGB. It basically wouldn't go fast enough to scatter its own crappy British parts on the track, and never won a single race with that. And then I picked up a Honda Civic just to go to college in, and then won the first autocross I ran in that. So that was my first
wow.
kind of like, that was like, I knew like, okay, my life is in front wheel drive Hondas. And who knew later, like 20 years later, I'd win a Honda Challenge Championship, which was kind of fun. But then I moved on to a Bullet Mustang. So it was a 2001 Ford Mustang Special Edition Bullet. And I autocrossed that everywhere, went to national tours, national championships, things like that. And really loved big power rear-wheel drive around the F-Stock class. I've got a Z06 Corvette that I did some autocrossing and hill climbs with that I had to sell because that car was going to end my life. Super fun and super dangerous. And I'd read all these articles about the C6 Z06. All these pros are like, this is a very difficult car to drive. And I'm like, I'm a race car driver. I got this. And then the first time I was backwards in it off the track at Buttonwell, I was like, wow, this car is like really difficult to drive. But it was something I needed to get out of my system. I wanted a super fast car like that. I went to Mojave Mile, did 180 miles an hour, and it, I wanted to get the 200 mile an hour club. I didn't pull that off. I just didn't spend enough money on it to do that. But it was fun. So I like those kinds of cars. We've run some 350Zs around. Right now, I'm currently autocrossing a 2019 Ford Fiesta ST. So that is a project car for Ford Muscle magazine. So essentially I have the car and I'm developing parts for it and then autocrossing it. And it's going really well. Super fun car, great little platform, and a lot of fun to drive.
Nice.
So what about your HPDE education? Do you have anything extended besides just the norm? Like the go-karting. I mean, where did you learn through mostly?
So I had the opportunity to go to Skip Barber's MX5 Cup Racing School at Laguna Seca, which was awesome. I got my race license through that. I've been to the school at Mid-Ohio. I've been to the Derek Daly Academy at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I've done the Circuit of the Americas Audi Drive. I went to the Jim Hall Kart School in Ventura. So I'm sort of a student of the sport. So, for instance, if I'm going to run a national championship at a track I haven't been to, I will fly out ahead of time and go to the racing school at that track. And I don't care how many championships you've won, you will still learn something new every time you go back to a racing school. So I prioritize that expense to take that time and do it.
Oh, so what about your upcoming schedule for 2020, if there is such a thing at this point?
Tentative schedule.
That's a good point. So after I ran Honda Challenge for 4 seasons straight, that was an enormous amount of work to run, a regional championship season and then go to the national championships, which means you're traveling across the country to do that. And I'm very happy that our team was successful 4 years in a row with the championship. But basically, it was a little bit of a burnout. Like, I don't know how much longer I could sustain that. So I'm taking a little bit of roll back. And then I've won NASA national championships, so I haven't won one in SCCA yet. So my goal this year with the Fiesta project is to go to the SCCA national championships in Lincoln, Nebraska, and compete. So hopefully we're all over this thing and we're back there racing. But my odds of winning that are not as good because that is a very, very difficult thing to win. SCCA Autocross Championship, those are some very, very good drivers, very well prepared cars. So I'll give it my best shot. You got to have goals. You want to have a goal in front of you so you kind of know what you're doing. What are you building the car for? What events are you going to? What's your ultimate goal? And so, for us, that always helped us know linearly what we were going to do, what the point of this project is. So we weren't sort of like lost in the build.
Well, and each person is pulling in the same direction, basically. Hey, this is what we're all trying to do. So we can all be doing different things, but we're all pulling together, looking in the same direction.
Yeah. Right.
Correct. Our team didn't always do that. We were confused sometimes. Like, hey, we're going to go to this Lemons race. We're going to do this Chump Car race. We're going to go to NASA. We're painting cars. We're changing the theme. Like, we were kind of all over the map. We just wanted to know motorsports world domination was our goal, right? But sometimes we had to figure out hey, what's the schedule this year? And how am I going to get through this without getting divorced? Like, Mrs. Krider's not happy. I can't go to every race every weekend. I can't be in the shop every night till 3 o'clock in the morning. So you got to kind of balance that lifestyle with your kids and your job. And, racing is a hobby. For me, it's not a job by any means. So that's always been the balance. How much can we do and still make it feasible and really stay on the job,
Nice.
keep our
Right.
real jobs, right?
So segue right into what does your shop do?
So our shop doesn't do anything. Double Nickel 9, it's just a couple guys who like to go racing. So it doesn't make money, it just loses money. Double Nickel 9 Motorsports is basically a building that has our motorhome in it. It has 3 Honda Challenge cars in it. It has a bunch of tools in it, and a huge trophy case with a lot of trophies in it. So it's got a couch and a fridge full of Double Nickel 9 Motorsports.
He's basically saying it's a hobby shop.
Yeah, it's a huge man cave that I'm super proud of.
That is awesome.
So your racing philosophy, and has it changed over time?
Not really. I mean, my racing philosophy has always been to essentially always dominate and win. I mean, we really don't want to do anything else. That's fun for us. So what's fun for some teams to dress up like Star Trek and put a doghouse in a car and race in lemons, I think that's super cool. It's just not our style. We just wanted to win. So that's why we kind of had to migrate out of lemons. Lemons is kind of done with us. They were going to make sure that we never won again. You know what I mean? So we were going to get penalty lapped every time we showed up. We got the message. We moved on to NASA because in NASA we were essentially allowed to go as hard and fast as we could, and not be limited by $500 rule and all these different things. So, so that's kind of our mantra. For me as a driver behind the wheel, I mean, ultimately, this is the truth. I mean, when I'm on the track, I try to scare myself to death at least once a lap. And so if I don't feel like I almost killed myself at least once every lap, then I'm not trying hard enough. And so I'm always trying to make micro adjustments to improve and keep the car going faster and faster and faster to make sure that I'm all alone and out front and no one's near me. You want to be in the clean air and by yourself. To be honest with you, being in the front is the safest place to be in a race. So I've learned that. Qualify on the pole, get out front early, and just lead flag to flag. That's what I've done in Honda Challenge. And that's how you win. Now, Lemons was different. You have 179 cars on the track. You're going to be rolling through traffic all day long, all night long, regardless of how fast you're going. So that idea is completely different. So an endurance mindset really comes down to how do we manage the car, how do we manage the tires, how do we manage our drivers for a 24-hour race. And that takes a totally different mindset, and that is we would put our more conservative drivers in early in the race, and we would save our bonsai suicide drivers for the end when really we knew the car was going to make it, and we would just drive until the door handles fell off. We did not put those guys at the beginning of the race because the car wouldn't last. So it's really just a driver management thing. And then we're big in radios and communications. We use Samson Racing Communications radios. We have like 50 of them. So we're always in communication. We have spotters. We usually run about 3. Oh, nice. We usually run about 3 to 4 spotters on the track. So we can see 100% wherever we are.
Wow.
So the spotters will talk to each other like this. Say, clear turn 2, go to spotter B. And then spotter B picks it up. I see you. You're open. You got 2 car lengths. You're clear. Run your line. Apex. Go to spotter C. And so that is really, I would say, probably the biggest success for us, besides having our spare car at the track, was the number of spotters we always used and the communication that we always continued to have with our driver. Because if the driver started doing something stupid, then me as a team manager got to say, look, we're going to pull you out if you don't slow down. You're running the pace we're right now.
Wow.
Nice.
Well,
we just actually upgraded our setup this year. We doubled the number of radios, and we're trying to get them all dialed in and programmed and getting it going so we can try to keep on top of whatever another. But I do like the eyes on the race car, at least maybe once or twice for us if we could get, someone at a designated location, then, just in case the driver doesn't hear or know when to come in, they'd know where to look to see if they should come in.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great tip.
I can't think of anybody who that would apply to.
But anybody.
Nobody.
Nope.
So just in case, Rob, you may not have heard the episode, Alan was out, and he, I don't know if refused is too strong a word, but I don't think it's quite strong enough. He refused to come back in, so we
blissfully unaware.
Blissfully unaware, yeah. Screaming "wee" on the radio, but didn't respond to any of our radios. And so we stood there for a half an hour at the front straight of, I don't know if you've ever been to Thompson, but you're a West Coast guy, but standing at the front straight with our big banner and being ignored. Then I go to the shop for the racetrack, and I try to find the brightest shirt that I can find. And there's a there's a bridge over the track where you cannot help but see it. So I'm standing on the bridge, in the middle of the bridge, with two of these shirts, just waving them every time he comes by. 6 laps later, I get tired of doing that, and I go back, and then we see Alan pulling in, and he's pulling up to the gas tank, and I stupidly had let him have a credit card at the time, so he was going to fill up the car, the gas tank, and leave
Purple mist
without
that
saying
Alan goes
anything
into.
No,
to anybody.
I would have told you later.
So let me get this straight, Alan. You were racing a car, full Nomex helmet, seatbelts. Went to the gas pumps, got out, pulled a credit card out of your pocket, filled the car with gas. We're going to jump back in, go back on the track. That is so baller.
I backed it in. I was back in so I could get out quick because you got to think exit strategy. You know what I'm saying? So I was ready, and then just in case there's any issues, I was just going to just help out. You know?
I think that's super cool, dude. I think that's really awesome. Good man.
No, don't encourage him.
I mean, I would say it's not very efficient. I mean, I can certainly tell you that my team does a quicker pit stop than that, but I respect
I don't
the
think
move.
we had another option at that point, and it wasn't many people there anyway, so it wasn't the worst option.
That's because they were all over the track trying to wave you in.
I think that's called divide and conquer. I'm not really sure. If that was
that's called ADD is what that is. ADHD.
The problem is at the bridge there, like, the line, you're looking ahead. You always have to look ahead. You know
Right.
So.
You're not looking at that stuff. Who's this crazy person with a shirt you've never seen before waving? That's got nothing to do with you. That can't be for your team.
Seriously, I look really close for the flaggers, so when I get my black flags, I know to slow down. We have evidence from others in the podcast how quickly I slow down, like unnecessarily, because I was like, oh,
black flags.
Yeah, we were going to black flag him. We had talked to our friends in the flagging station. They were going to black flag him if we
black
couldn't
flag
get him
your
in
own car.
Yeah.
This is why you guys haven't won a race yet. That's not the success to win races. Black flagging your own car. I'll be honest.
Yeah, Alan goes into purple sparkly mist sometimes when he goes behind the wheel. He really does.
You just kind of turn after turn, and you just kind of get in your own zone and stuff.
I respect it, dude.
He's so happy. He's literally so happy. You can actually see the teeth behind the helmet of just the grin, probably about as wide as the helmet as he's behind.
So how you fix this is Alan doesn't go in the car until there's an hour left and an hour's of the gas left and the race. And then he gets in, and then he doesn't have to come in or look for flags because he just goes until the checker flag comes out.
See, we thought about doing that, but then we were concerned that as we like to do our track walk that first day. We thought we'd get mowed down as we were walking by because Alan's still going to be doing circles.
Right. He's going the distance.
Yeah, I've got gas. I'm using it.
That's right. I like it.
Yeah. It's hysterical when we're not at the track.
Me? Read that?
The big yellow words that say Alan.
I gotta scroll here. Hold on. All right. So on Honda Acuras, we are looking into front-wheel drive cars to build. We're building a 93 Civic, I believe, 2-door, long good for life. And what can you give us? We have our Honda guy on the East Coast here that's hooking us up. He's agreed to let us come down to his place and build a motor and transmission. But what would you suggest us look for in a front-wheel drive? What would you recommend? What do you have, Bill?
So what we're trying to do is this is another one of those little segments of our series where we're trying to get the usual offenders, we're calling them, the cars that everybody drives. Why would they choose? Suppose they're trying to get out on the track. Why would you choose what's typically chosen? What's the standard car? There's always going to be the guy who gets the 58 whatever, but the normal-ish. I guess normal and lemons don't really go together, but the normal cars that people would choose from, and then what's their strengths, what's their weaknesses, what would you do to take a street car and put it on the race and things like that. And one of those cars that we see a lot and does quite well is the Honda family, a Honda Acura family. And that was why we were thinking about, since you've got, I don't know, you might have raced one or two to some degree of success with 4 national championships in a row, but whatever. We thought, hey, let's take advantage of somebody who's silly enough to come on our podcast. So that's why we were trying to go for.
All right, I will give you the keys to success in Honda racing. So we won the 24 Hour of Lemons at Altamont in 2008 with an Acura Integra. Your 93 Civic that you have is a great platform. So the first thing I would do is I'd probably do a B18 engine swap using Hasport motor mounts. So that's really the Acura Integra motor. So it's
Okay.
a little more, the Honda came with a 1.6, so you want a little more displacement. The weak components of the car are this. They like to pop head gaskets off. So a lot of people have had trouble in Honda Challenge and have had trouble in Lemons and Chump and Lucky Dog because these things have an expiration date and they like to pop the head gasket right off. So we solved that problem, and it's a pretty simple fix. So you're going to get ARP bolts. You're going to put them in correctly, and you're going to torque them to the ARP's standard of torque, not Honda's torque. So ARP is a little higher, about, I don't know, 20% higher.
And you're saying bolts, not studs.
They're studs.
Okay. No,
Maybe they're bolts.
Okay.
I can't. No, they're studs. They are studs.
Okay. No, cool.
Those studs. But I misspoke. They're studs. And then you're going to use a Cometic head gasket, 30 over. And then you're going to basically put that sucker together and keep water in it and don't over rev it. And you'll be good. Okay. The next trick is that the distributors on the Hondas like to give people grief. And so there's a little part in that thing called a igniter. And I was leading a chump car race at Fontana and lost the igniter and didn't win. We put a new igniter in it Saturday night and we won on Sunday. So that thing has cost me a Honda Challenge race win and a chump car win. So we always kind of have a fresh, and when I buy an igniter, I buy it from Honda Performance Development Racing. I don't buy one from AutoZone or Riley's or Pep Boys. I'm buying genuine Honda igniter. Then the third kind of failure point for the Hondas is going to be your axles, CV joints, CV boots. We've solved that problem by using Insane shafts. And so their stuff is basically bulletproof. And then we bring extra boots with us, and we know how to replace boots and grease those axles. And then we've had no problems at all. Before we worked with Insane shafts, I lost the Lemons race because of an axle. We were leading Lemons at Sonoma, blew an axle, ended up finishing second place. We got that axle out in about 5 minutes. We were really good at doing those swaps. One of the things we do on our team is we'll have like a box with it'll just say axle swap. So it's a box with an axle in it. It has all the tools we need in it. It has a laminated instructions of what bolts to take off, what the torque will be, all the tools, and we can knock out an axle in less than 5 minutes. So those are the things that if we know we have a weak point, then we build systems to solve for that.
Awesome.
You do those three things, and that Honda's going to go and go and go.
Sweet. Yeah, I know we may or may not have had a guest driver over rev a Honda motor on us once, maybe. Yeah, and our Honda guru told us we got to open up the passages, I think, to the number 3 connecting rod or somebody, who knows. Make sure all those oil passages are looking good, because, man, he did some great lap times right off the bat. He really just floored us, and then it came in.
And then he floored us.
Kaboom.
Thump,
Yes.
thump. And then Jen had to do a head gasket, so that was fine. I mean, with the bottom end and then, all that. So.
And rebuild the top from scratch.
Yeah, and we scotch brighted any of the rust out of the cylinders because there was a little in the bottom end. But I was like, I'm just using the top end. I'm not using any bottom end. I'm going all top end on this one. So you know it is. Full sun.
Yeah. That sounds good.
It
Awesome.
lasted for
So yeah, what do you got, Bill?
laps. It lasted
Yeah,
for
it
4
did.
laps.
It did. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, they're pretty solid 4 laps.
But he was fast for 4 laps.
So,
Oh no, this was after we fixed
No,
it.
yeah.
It lasted
Yeah,
for
this
4
was like
laps.
Saturday afternoon out west, and our most expensive free race ever. And then we got the motor, and then Bill wasn't feeling carrying the motor over the pedestrian bridge to get it to me so I could put it in faster. So he made me work late at night. But whatever, it's fine. Luckily, our boy Jeff Wright kicked in and did some serious work for me, bailing me out. We got on with 30 minutes left in the race. Like we almost took checkers. Like it was so close.
You know what? With a broken car, as long as you make checker, that's the goal.
Well, you had an adventure. You got to do a motor swap. That's
Oh man, I know. Well, that's the thing. These guys hadn't seen that, and I was like, when I
We
rented
had
my
so
car,
much
when we
fun.
flew out, I was like, hey, why is the truck cheaper than all the cars? He's like, it's just supply and demand. Nobody wants this truck. I'm like, I'll take a pickup truck. Fine. Who knew? Like
You needed
can't-
that pickup truck.
a can of
work
foamy
bench.
engine bright later, and they don't know I did anything in the back of that truck. I'm just saying, nothing happened back there at all.
That was his workbench.
Absolutely. And probably where he slept.
Yeah, just about. So you're finding your weak points. That sounds awesome. So I know our friends do carry the rear trailing arm or something on the back of their Honda, because they like anything touches back there, it's broken. I know they bailed out some friends with that sort of stuff. What is the advantage of the Honda setup, other than there's a million of them out there, they're cheap and consistent and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lightweight. It's got a double wishbone front suspension, which really does a lot for tire wear in the front. You don't have to run too much camber. We run about 4 degrees, between 3.5 to 4 degrees, and that car just does very well. As far as the rear trailing arm goes, I've seen other teams have that problem. We don't. We use Kingpin Engineering, basically spherical bearings, and we use PCI's deal, and all those things really solve those problems.
Right.
We do replace wheel bearings back there quite a bit, but same thing. We have a box ready to go. We have wheel bearings with ARP studs already pressed in them. We can do that swap in probably 2 minutes. So it's really not a big deal for us. We check them after every session. So when our car comes off the track, it goes in the air. We check CV joints. We check all the wheel bearings. We check for leaks. That's a standard Honda challenge go through, and that's just for sprint racing. When we were doing Lemons racing, one of the things we did differently than other teams was we rebuild our car Saturday night for the 2-day races. So they freeze that race, and then our car's up on all fours. We're throwing new everything at it, and then we're aligning it. And people would make fun of us because we're actually like aligning our car with strings and stuff, and the paddock, and other people are just trying to get their car to run. They're like, "Wow, you're taking this really seriously." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why we're in the front." You know what I mean? Like that, you have to do this stuff to be successful. But good luck.
That's how you win, people.
Right.
I'm seeing an error in our plan. Okay. So this isn't for me. I'm trying to represent our vast listenership. A spherical bearing is a what?
Okay, so your stock car comes with a rubber bushing. Okay, so it's basically, so when you're driving down the road, you don't feel all the bumps and grinds. It's basically just to make the car comfortable to go get milk at the store. And then a lot of racers will put in, urethane, right? That's super cheap. You can buy a whole urethane kit from Energy Suspension for like, $100 for a whole car. And that's okay. But if you're going to go to the next level, then we replace all that stuff with basically metal spherical bearings that are just metal on metal. And they provide you every input from the roadway, and they make the car very, very consistent. So, as your suspension moves, and nothing is really that strong, and even metal will flex in racing. So these things just make the car consistent. So when I go into a curve and my suspension starts to move, the suspension geometry that we've set up with all of our string alignment is still there during hard bumps and lots of camber and lots of hard stuff going on with banking in the curve, where urethane and rubber will just sort of like deform, and then suddenly you thought you had 4 degrees of camber, now you have 2 degrees of positive camber, and that's not good for the tire. So if you start driving for a while, you start to feel this in the car. We're looking at a lot of pictures of your car as you go around the track. Buy those super cool track pictures. You may look at your front tire and go, shoot, that wheel is pointed the wrong direction in the middle of that curve. I didn't know that. And so we look at a lot of still photos and kind of get an idea of what is the suspension doing on track, and spherical bearings have solved that for us.
Nice.
So would they be a performance advantage or a maintenance endurance type advantage, or are they still going to be a wear part at some point? I'm guessing. I'm not sure.
All the above. So it's a huge performance advantage. It will wear, and so that's the thing. When we ran a set on the 25 hours Thunder Hill, they were destroyed by the end of the race. So we destroyed a set of spherical bearings in one race. So they're more expensive to run, but they gave us what we needed for that particular event.
Are they? I guess let's see. This is
you
not.
should look
just
on the back of our race car, Bill.
Okay, these are not just specific to Hondas. And do they typically, let's say that the polyurethane bearing bushings are like $100 is a rough ratio. Are they like $110? Well, I'm guessing. I'm hoping.
Well,
but,
now hold on, Bill. He's
more like 1,000.
He's talking about Honda parts. If you're looking on E36, you got to go with the German conversion factor.
Yes.
You got to go. It's a European Union.
$2,000. Yeah. They're not cheap. They're not cheap.
Okay.
Yeah, each side. So either way.
Okay. Very well. So just remember, Vicki, $500 car.
Do you want to win? How fast do you afford to go?
Well, I think the weak spot in our car
$500.
is not our bearings. I think it might be us. So, as far as we're going back to Honda, because Bill's done doing his representation, because I knew all that. But is there any areas of concern or weak parts to the Honda type cars or Honda Acura type cars that somebody should be aware of and perhaps look at upgrading from the factory to get it ready for running?
Yeah, so your fuel capacity is pretty small. You're looking at about a 12.4 gallon tank in most Hondas, and that's just not going to get the job done for you in endurance racing. So what we did was we put a 43 gallon fuel cell in our car, and then we put a diaper on me, and then we kept me out for 4 hours straight.
So you're the reason for that rule.
Yeah, that's my fault. So the 22 gallon fuel cell rule is totally Krider Racing's fault. That's my fault personally. But we did win races with that. It was very successful.
Well, you didn't have to fill up until Sunday night, so.
We did not stop. And so then people started looking at our transponder data. They're like, dude, Krider didn't come in ever. And I was just drinking water and peeing my pants and, winning races. So that's how it's done.
So we've heard rumor of a car that had the stock fuel system, no problem, everything was good, but then it also had an additional fuel cell in there.
Yeah, that was my team too.
That had a pump from the fuel cell to the standard stock. So yeah. It was. Okay.
That wasn't illegal at the time. They said you can add a fuel cell, so we added a fuel cell, and then we plumbed that fuel cell into our gas tank, and then our gas gauge worked. And we just drove around for like 3 hours, and the thing never went off with F. It was just full. Then finally, when it got down to like, okay, so then when we came in to get gas, we actually filled up the gas tank and the fuel cell at the same time with 2 gas pumps. And that's when people started asking questions like, what's up with this?
What's he doing?
What do you mean?
So they changed that rule after that race. But it was legal when we did it.
Because of you.
It was innovation.
Oh, my.
And it was super simplistic. It literally just drained into the fuel neck, into the tank. It was really easy to install.
Oh my. Okay. All right. We just need to be more creative. I think that's part of our problem.
It's not cheating. It's innovation. You're
Yeah.
innovating.
It's bringing out the extended rule book.
We are operating in the white areas of the rule book.
So Lemons changed the fuel cell rule because of us. Chump Car changed the driver length of time because of us. So they don't care what your fuel cell is. You got to come in 2 hours. That's our fault. Also, the rollover rule is my brother's fault because we rolled over an Integra on the last lap of Lemons. So that's a new rule. If you roll a car over, you're kicked out for a year. So that was our fault.
They've slightly eased up on that just because we had someone punted, so they didn't boot that person. But whatever. Yeah, no.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
you for owning that, though, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, we got punted. We were out. I mean, we were punted from Lemons.
That's saying something.
Yeah, it's true. We deserved it.
All right, so I go out there. I find myself a nice sub $500 Honda Acura that I'm happy with. I've got it prepped. I've got my roll cage in there. I've got let's say you got a fuel cell in there. What would be the first few things you'd look at for upgrading? Is it just going after that head gasket and studs type area, or is there some other stuff that we need to work on?
So you're going to need probably a Skunk 2 upper control arm just to get enough camber out of the front. There's different ways to get camber out of it. That's probably the easiest way to do it. So, a lot of cars with the limited ability for adjustment will only give you so much really adjustment that you want because they're road built cars. But if you want racing stuff, sometimes you got to add components on. And we found that upper control arm, and it's only about $200, which is of course that's 80% of the price of the car in Lemons, but that gives you the camber you need and keep the tires from being worn out because you want to keep that outside edge healthy of that tire.
Okay. And then, one of the things is, there's never one tool for every job because, Alan keeps telling me, well, besides he keeps telling me not to use any tools, he keeps telling me that, I can't use a hammer on that or I can't use a screwdriver on that. But, when I have my Honda, what should I be looking to do? Am I going to be doing my Paris-Dakar off-road rally or am I more suited to perhaps some other type of racing?
When you have your Honda, one tool you want to bring is an engine hoist because you're going to be doing an engine swap.
We have one.
It's already got an engine on it.
Vicki, I don't know how much you have planned, but if you want to throw a little theme on that hoist too, we can. I support you, girl. I got you.
Hey,
I'm in.
There's an idea.
Because Jen, this way Jen will look at something else instead of me. Stop yelling at me to keep working all the time.
We do have time. So let's pretend we asked a question. What type of racing would you want to do for your Honda? Is it going to be autocross? Is it going to be endurance? Is it going to be time attack? Is it, kind of a Swiss Army knife? It'll do whatever you ask it to. You may have to tweak it a little bit, but it's all arounder or.
Yeah, it's pretty much an all-rounder. When we're running sprint races, we do have the car set up differently than we do for endurance racing. So if we're going to run what's called the Work Series, which is the Western Endurance Racing Championship out here on the West Coast, that's NASA's kind of build up to the 25 hours. So you have a number of 3-hour, 6-hour races around the West Coast. We will probably add, lights, obviously, for night racing. We're going to run a fuel cell as opposed to like when we're doing sprint racing, we can get it done with just a stock Honda tank. So there's no reason to add that extra weight and stuff to that car. So those are the things we would really modify for it. It's really, really good for both. We've won the 14 hours of Buttonwillow and Chump Car with an Integra. We won Fontana with the Integra. We won Altamont Lemons with the Integra. We've won NASA races with the Integra. So that car has been very, very good in both long races and super short races. We've done some time attack stuff too as well, but it just really depends on the rule setup that you have designed your car to be successful in. So we limit ourselves to the Honda Challenge 4 racing rules. So there's certain modifications we could make to put a lot more power in the car to do time attacks, but ultimately that would make our motor illegal for Honda Challenge, so we haven't gone that route. Just like we talked about before, you want to have a plan. If I'm going to go to this sanctioning body, for me, the most important thing you can do is really just be so, in-depth enamored and know everything about that rule book, right? So you want to read that rule book like a defense attorney reads the penal code. You want to know everything you can get away with to make yourself the fastest car possible for success.
Okay. So this would be, we're basically putting the Honda in a position where it's an alternative to the car that is always the answer, the Miata. Is that
right?
Kinda...
So the thing I'll tell you about Miatas is that I've lost a lot of races with that damn car. You know what I mean? Fact of the matter is, it's just really, really good. It's a great car because it's super strong. It's got great, it's rear wheel drive, so it wears tires out well. The footprint of tire you can get on that car versus what it weighs makes it really good, which is a disadvantage to a lot of cars like BMWs. You got to flare the fenders to get the big enough tire on there for what it really wants, where the Miata it just fits. So, it's just a good car. I think they're a little low on power personally, but, teams like ISO Racing put a turbocharger on it, and they've won a lot of Lemons races with it. Very successful co-ed racing team, and you guys should have them on the show. They're really good guys and gals.
We're more than willing. So for those of the listeners who may be slightly larger or wider in stature, the alternative to a Miata may be the Honda.
Absolutely. So, yes, if you've ever sat in a Miata, that is a tight cockpit for sure. And if you have a hard top on it, getting out during an endurance race is very difficult to do.
And if you're on the East Coast, you don't really want to drive open top because most of our races it ends up raining. So.
Sure. Understandable.
Absolutely.
So what is your sweet spot? Your performance targets, like gas mileage, what we solved with which we solved with a 43-gallon fuel cell, which is now illegal in Le Mans.
Yes.
And Chump.
Jen, the blue stuff says.
All right. Huh?
We actually read the doc. We actually got a
so,
guest on that read the doc and answered ahead of time. I
Yeah,
know
we
this
don't.
is really strange
All
and you don't understand it. I know. I get you.
I don't understand it. I'm in the middle of nowhere.
And we're with you.
Like
We're
at
with
a
you.
farm in Virginia.
Come to our team, Jen. You're in the middle of nowhere.
all I know is Jen's drinking a Corona in Virginia. She's happy. She seems to be the happiest
It's not
person here.
correct. It's a Bud Light with lime.
Oh, a Bud Light Lime. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I respected you earlier. Now, not as much.
No, those girls drink plenty of Coronas. Don't worry, Rob. Don't worry at all. I witnessed
We
it
like our
myself.
Mexican
I will
lager.
testify that they definitely have had plenty of Coronas.
Don't judge me.
So, hey, the answer to the question is it's endurance. We have to make sure the car lasts. The whole saying is, in order to finish first, you have to first finish. We absolutely believe in that on our team. Is that there's no point in being the fastest guy or the coolest looking car unless you cross the line ahead of everybody when that race is over. So we've always really prioritized keeping the car on the track. And that really comes down to our pit stop strategy, how much we practice our pit stops like a Le Mans team does, not Lemons, but Le Mans in France, and trying to be as efficient as we can, every single movement, every tool, every component we can to make the car on the track longer, in the pits less. And really, if your car's broken and you're replacing, axles and wheel bearings, you're not making laps. So endurance has always been the secret to success in Lemons. And you can look at all the different statistics you want of all the Lemons races. Very, very rarely has the person who set the fastest lap won the race, because being the fastest car on track is not usually get the job done. So endurance is what we're looking for. That's the sweet spot.
I'm sorry, Alan may not have heard that. What was that last one? I'm not sure about that.
You don't need to be the fastest, Alan, to be.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying, don't let me put words in your mouth. You don't have to be the fastest to compete in endurance.
Wow. I get it.
I'm just making sure. Okay. Sorry, Alan. This break has been brought to you by
Red Mist.
shiny, shiny red mist with little sprinkles on glitter and everything else. So, I know you've talked about it before, Rob, but you may have seen videos or posts related to a certain E36 rear wheel bearing that we've been battling and losing to for 6 weeks now. And
I have very much enjoyed those posts. They are absolutely hilarious.
and Vicki would be saying a whole lot more if she wasn't on mute. But
No, it's done. We've managed the banging on that now.
yes, I've broken it so it won't have to come apart. So that's a good plan. Are there any, let's call them loving areas that we need to look forward to if we were to go down the Honda road?
Yes, so we talked about a little bit with that rear wheel bearing likes to go out. Front wheel bearings like to wear out as well. So what we have done is we've realized, just like your BMW, it's a challenge to get a front wheel bearing out of a Honda quickly. So we don't do it. So we have a spare knuckle, which has a brand new wheel bearing in it. It has a brand new hub on it. It has 4 brand new ARP long studs on it. And all the bushings are in it, and it's ready to go for both sides of the car. That's in a special box with all the tools it needs to swap it out. So if we lose a wheel bearing, we will just swap an entirely brand new built knuckle out and be back on the track. And then, everything's good to go. So those are just things you can do to limit your problems at the track when you're like, because I've done it. I've been at the track beating a knuckle with a sledgehammer trying to get it out, sweat and screaming and yelling at the team and what this is your fault, we should have swapped this before the race, blah blah blah. So it's to avoid those things. One, change wheel bearing before you go. Just bring a fresh set for every long endurance race. That's a given. And then 2, have a spare ready to go, or a third. I mean, we like to have lots of spares. We've just been through it enough times, and we've had races that we had in the bag won, and we lost them because of a $17 part, and we don't want to do that again. So.
What about concerning inspection, the inspection areas, wear areas, besides the bearing, consumables, estimate usage rates for the vehicle?
So the first thing about a Honda is, it's a unibody car. So essentially, you got to make sure you're getting a straight one. And so that could be tricky. So Hondas are a very popular car to be sort of modified by the Honda tuner crowd, and they like to lower them a lot, and they beat them. So a lot of times these cars are pretty rough by the time you get your hands on a $500 Honda. So you're really looking for what you can do to make sure you get it going. So the first thing we do is, if we're at a tow yard, we will bring the Honda on a flat location. We'll jack it up and put 4 jack stands underneath it. And if all 4 jack stands aren't touching the bottom of that car, that's not for us. That's been tacoed. Essentially, it's been hit in the front, and it twists the unibody so that when you're on jack stands, it'll kind of balance, which is scary, right? You don't want that on the jack stands. But that's the first indicator to us that this is not the chassis we are looking for.
Wow.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Exactly.
Wow. So you've got have you purchased the vehicles and then found out this is not good and then had to get rid of them, or you started?
Oh no, we raced them anyways, because we're dumb.
But
we learned from that experience.
You're like, I'm not going to get a bent one next time.
Yeah. So I got one that I drove home from a wrecking yard, and basically if I let my hand off the wheel, it tried to put me in the center divider. I thought, that's weird. Good. I'm sure it's just an alignment issue. And then, of course, we never solved that alignment issue because the whole unibody was tacoed. And so they were like, oh, this car is no good. So luckily for us, my brother rolled that car over. And so here's a little insider secret. So in Lemons, they like you to kind of rebuild cars and bring them back, and you don't get as many penalty laps. So what we did was we took all the body parts off of our rollover Integra. We bolted them onto a brand new Integra and made it look like the rollover car, and then went back out to the race. So little shady stuff on our team.
Yet another rule that's going to be put in as a result of you.
Yes.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. So it sounds like these cars are kind of cool. Are there any difficult areas to work on?
No, not difficult. Rebuilding the transmission is a little bit of an art. It scares me because you have that stack of gears, and some people are like, it's no big deal. You just throw it together. For me, I'm a little bit intimidated by that, so I kind of leave that to the pros. So Synchrotech Transmission builds our transmissions. I go down to San Dimas with them, and I sit with them while they build it and try to learn and make sure they torque every bolt 3 times. But that's the only thing where I'm kind of like, I'm not as familiar with this, just to take the whole thing apart and slap a new second gear in there. I'm just not that good of a mechanic, but I surround myself with guys who are good at it. So that's really my thing, is just resource management, right? Put talented people around you and let them flourish. And then I just stand around them and I'm just the anal retentive person saying, like, let's check that bolt one more time and make sure all these parts are in the right order. So I'm a real huge pain in the butt on my team, essentially, because I send ridiculously long emails that nobody likes to read. I want to have team meetings. I want to get stuff done, a certain way, and I make people redo stuff over and over again. Even if it's bolted on the car, I make them take it back out again. So, I mean, some of my friends don't really like me a lot of times, but they do recognize that this is this recipe for success in endurance racing. So they sort of roll over and go with the program. And then we don't talk to each other for about 2 weeks after a race. Then about a month later, it's like, okay, let's go racing again. We can all be friends again.
I have some similar experiences with a lack of email responses and/or text responses and/or email and text responses, and it's not just your team, sir.
That's the life of the team manager, the team principal. If you go watch, the Netflix documentary Formula One Drive to Survive, that team manager is as frustrated as you are. Like, it's just people not doing their job the way you want it done. But the goal is really to manage people. You got to keep them happy, and this is supposed to be fun, and it's a lot of late nights, busting knuckles, and dirty work. So if you're not making it fun, then they're never going to come back. So you got to balance out, like, how can we all be on the same page here? Because ultimately, I know for me, I'm going to be the one standing on the podium spraying champagne, and the guys who stayed up all night doing a motor swap are in the back of the crowd thinking, like, oh, look at that guy. Well, that must be nice. So you got to make sure that everyone feels like they're a part of a team overall and share that victory with them. They'll never be back.
I've got one way for you to think about it that'll make you feel slightly better. There's a reason why, despite being a billionaire who owns Indianapolis and the IndyCar series itself, that Roger Penske also has the whitest hair I've ever seen.
And if you're a Penske fan, and I certainly am, I'm a huge Penske fan, Donahue fan. I mean, we follow their lead on some stuff. He's in the pit box. He's watching every race, and he's watching every call. He makes those calls. So, he lets his guys run and fly, but he's also right there, verifying it's done the way he wants it done. That's why he's the captain.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure his emails don't get read either. So don't feel bad.
I'm sure they don't. No doubt in my mind that they don't read his emails.
I guess you're a supporter of getting into the Honda and Acura family of cars, and that's awesome. But I guess one of the things that we'd also look to is, you started where we have stayed.
Well,
I started just where you guys are.
So,
Same
yeah,
spot.
but it's just you left here. You left us. You ditched us. We're a couple of years behind. There's hope, but we're a few years behind. And over the years, it seems like you guys have had some different ways and different tips of doing things. And we were thinking if we could kind of pilfer some of your prior articles on that and perhaps share them with our listeners and and our hosts.
That would be an honor. That's what those articles are there for. So link them all you want. Go for it. Absolutely.
Cool.
So, this is me. So,
Hello, me.
Hello, you.
it's going to be so edited.
So
leave it
we
that way.
have we like to create a track map when we go to the track. Bill's new thing is he kind of wants to get whiteboards for every track, which I kind of think is a neat idea. But how do you guys create a whiteboard for your track map?
So there's a couple ways to do it, and we have our own vinyl cutter, which is something that we bought for our team that we essentially has paid for itself, I would say maybe 50 times over. Honestly, that thing we bought from US Cutter, it cuts all of our stickers for everything we're doing for our toolboxes and our helmets and our race cars. Like, you're just money ahead on that thing. So once we had that, we could make t-shirts with it. We could make all kinds of wacky things. I thought, shoot, we could make a track map and just stick it on a whiteboard. So when we want to talk about and exactly what you're trying to do, I think is a great idea. Having a multi-drivers on the team, you're always going to be right in front of that whiteboard talking about, hey, I'm in third gear going into turn 2, and then I'm holding it in. Then I'm braking at this rock or this third cone, whatever it is. That's a great discussion for multi-drivers on one team to have. So having that track map that's basically we just put a sticker on a whiteboard, and then we have our little magnetic markers that stick on the board, and we have different colors to make notes. And so it helps us during a long race weekend to discuss what's going on. And really it helps every driver in the car to be better, because someone's going to be faster in turn 5 than they're going to be in turn 1. You can learn from each other and say, okay, and then we use a lot of data telemetry, and my engineers get on my case like, you're not going hard enough into, China Beach at Mid Ohio. I'm just like, you're crazy, I'm going to crash. And I'll look at the data, I'm like, you're right, I'm being a wuss, I need to go deeper. So the track map helps me go like right here, deeper. Rob, go deeper. So that's how we make it. And if you guys were to make one for every track you go to and kind of keep them as a souvenir in the shop, that'd be kind of a cool thing to have in the race shop. I think it'd be neat.
Yeah.
It is kind of neat. So I also saw that Bill had shown me, it was pretty awesome, when you designed and built the race deck flooring for
so
underneath
that's
the car.
So race deck makes flooring, and they make it in all kinds of colors. And so I was like, hey, our colors right now for Double Nickel 9 Motorsports are kind of a blue, orange, silver thing. And so we wanted to kind of make our paddock a little sexier. So we ordered some floors, and they let you design anything you want. So we did like a checkerboard with the blue and orange and a silver outside to match the cars. And it looks great. I think it looks really cool. And for us, we show up at the track, we bring the circus with us. So we've got our golf cart, looks like the cars. And we've got flooring and these big tents that are sponsored by Tactical Ops Brewing. And so we kind of look like a World Challenge racing team at, a NASA amateur racing event. But that's sort of the psychological warfare that we play on other teams. Like basically, I get up earlier than you. My car is more prepared than you. I'm going to beat you.
and look at my awesome deck.
And check out my race deck flooring. And when you're on the ground getting dirty, we're just like sipping Double Nickel 9 beer and just sitting down on our matching chairs. So that's been kind of the fun. We like having a race team. That's our hobby, is to be a racing team. So we just are always trying to make the team look cooler than it really is. A lot of smoke and mirrors, to be honest.
See, that's what I just thought. It was be a racing team or a beer racing team. I wasn't sure what you said there.
Well, it's both. We are a beer racing team. So our logo for a while was "We'll Race for Beer." So we got connected with a brewery called Tactical Ops Brewing out of Fresno, and so they made a new beer, and we were working with them. I did a show called Optima: The Ultimate Street Car with my Z06 Corvette. So they helped sponsor us for that trip to SEMA in Vegas, and so we had big stickers on the car for their brewery, and they thought it was cool, and they're car guys. So Brandon and Justin said, "Hey, we're going to sponsor you," and they made a new beer called Double Nickel 9 IPA, which is after our race team. And then on the actual label of the beer is a picture of our Honda Challenge race car. So it's a super cool thing for us. And we have a hood of our race car in their brewery. The tap for Double Nickel 9 is actually a piston and rod that I chucked out of a block at Laguna Seca. So when people come in and get a beer, they're always talking stories about where it's from. And Double Nickel 9 is basically the area code for the Central Valley of California. It's 559. So for us, it's just Double Nickel 9. And where that came from was I'm sort of an egomaniac. And the team was originally called Krider Racing. There was a lot of Krider, a lot of Rob Krider. But there's 60 people, right, working on that team that you see in the documentary film Double Down. So that really wasn't fair, I think, to the team. And so I realized, you know what, we need to come up with just a neutral name that everyone could be equally a part of. And so we came up with Double Nickel 9, and 4 championships later, we're still rolling with it. So it's nothing. It's just the area code 559. So Double Nickel is 55 and 9 is 9. So that's
there
it.
you go.
Area code. Okay. Because I was thinking 55. I was like doing the Sammy Hagar thing, and then I was like,
yeah,
9. Couldn't get the 9. Okay.
Yep. 559.
All right. Very
So
well.
you had another article on jack stand stripes, which was actually a pretty clever idea. You offered the jack stands, but you put wood on the bottom because they were gouging into the hot asphalt.
Yeah, so
And it stabilized.
Thanks for saying that was clever. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
That's what I'm going for. But no, so in NASA, the rules are you actually have to you're not allowed to have a jack stand on any kind of tarmac because it digs into the hot asphalt and the hot race day. And so they spent all this money on the hot pit. You're not allowed to have that. So we basically built a plywood platform that goes underneath of each of our jack stands. I'd seen people do that, but it looked dangerous to me because it slides off the wood or whatever. So we used metal plumber's tape to essentially affix a piece of wood at the bottom of each jack stand. So they're one unit now. That jack stand always has that board attached to it, and it's pretty rough and tumble, and you can throw it under a car, and it works great. But it seemed like every time we were putting a car on the jacks, I'm like, oh, I'm on the second click. Oh, I'm on 1 click over here. Well, I'm on 3 clicks. I'm like, man, we're always having this discussion at the track. Let's just put a stripe around the neck of the jack stand as you pull it up. There's a big red stripe, and that tells you that's the 3rd click, and that's where it goes. So everyone just pulls up. They know they're on the right position on the jack stand, and then we put the car on the jack stand. We know it's safe because we don't want to have a situation where a car is going to fall off. So it's just a way of being just a little more efficient and quick on our race team.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Okay.
And so the different stripes are for which
No,
car?
it's
They
a
match
stripe.
to the car?
It's a stripe. It's a stripe at maybe the third click, whatever. This is the set we used to put the car up. There's no
It's a marker.
no jack of all trades. They're not, you know, like he could probably do a red, green, blue if he wanted to. Like, hey, we're going red this time, but I'm thinking he's just saying one white stripe, whatever it is. Bam, you set the
Exactly.
stripe, set it and
Mhm.
forget it, baby.
Exactly. These jack stands are for this car to do this work. So it's one height. It's at the stripe.
Mhm.
So why do you think we should use vehicle scales, level garages, and corner weighting?
Oh, good question. So everything you do on a race car is really transmitted through the tires, and the tires have a certain load rating that they can handle. And when they get too much saturation of too much weight and side forces and acceleration forces, they basically just give it up. And a lot of that has to do with the weight that's acting on the tire and the lateral forces you go through a corner. So if you have a car and it has a bunch of stuff in it, like a big fuel cell or a battery over the right front tire, you might find out when you put your car on 4 scales that you have way more weight on that right front tire than you do on the left front tire, and your cross weights are off. And so by having a very level garage floor and then putting the car on scales on a level floor, you get data. And that data says, hey, I've got too much weight on the right front tire. So there's a couple different ways you can work with that. One is by moving things around in the car. So it's like, well, if you're allowed to move a battery, put that battery somewhere else where it's advantageous for weight. Maybe you want to move the fuel cell back a little farther for a front wheel drive car to get more weight off the nose. Or if you have an adjustable ride height system like a coilover system, by actually adjusting the ride height, you're telling the car, I'm gonna take a little more of the work here and put it on the left front wheel as opposed to the right front wheel. So there's a spreadsheet you can use to kind of help you with that, to change things and ultimately, get yourself to what I call good cross weights or good weight. So for us, we want to have really good balance between our front wheels and our front wheel drive car. So they're really doing the same amount of work, and it helps our tires last longer. It also helps the car go through corners faster. So this is more of the fine tuning of racecraft that you'll learn sort of in car design, but there's really the ability to do that yourself if you just have adjustable coilovers on your car.
Nice. Nice. So why don't you tell us your 5 pro tips for effective brake bleeding?
Oh man, I have to look at the story. I don't know what they were, but I can tell you what some of them are. The first one is you're going to bleed your brakes a lot. We work as a team, so you have one person behind the wheel right there, and then we have one person at the farthest away brake caliper, from the master cylinder. So first thing we'll do is we'll use a sucker and we'll suck all the fluid out of the master cylinder, so we're not pumping all that gunk through the whole car. Replace that with RS683 racing brake fluid. That's the stuff you want. It goes super, super hot and will not boil over. And then basically you go through this deal where you say pressure and the person pushes on the brake pedal. The person at the farthest away caliper cracks the bleeder and lets that stuff bleed into your little water bottle that you built. And then you say, then the driver will say floor when the actual brake pedal is all the way on the floor. The person at the brake caliper will say close, release, and then the driver will release. And then the guy at the brake caliper will say pressure, and the driver will put pressure on the thing. And all you're doing is really just pumping old fluid out over and over again and looking for those air bubbles. Once you've got clean fluid coming out of that farthest away brake caliper, then you can move on to the next one farthest away. We always have one person at the master cylinder just pouring RS683 into the fluid. We have one person behind the wheel. We have one person running around the car on a little stool going from one brake caliper to the next. We do bleed our brakes after every session. We ran lemons. We would do all new fluid Saturday night and replace our front pads usually every time with Carbotech pads. So that's the stuff that we knew that really made the Hondas super, super efficient with braking. Even with a stock caliper and stock rotor, with a Carbotech brake pads and RS683 fluid, we were able to outbrake everybody. We would go deeper into corners than everybody. And we still do it in Honda Challenge to this day. We're just deeper than everyone else just because of those two things.
Wow. Excellent. Nice.
Yeah, I've usually done the down, up routine. That's my, everybody has their own dance. I really did enjoy the, I don't know if it's a Mercedes specific, but we had a nice pressure bleeder where it would have a metal tank, bladder in the middle. You push the tool down, you fill it with brake fluid, put some air pressure on the bottom, you screw that thing right in the reservoir, and then you're just one-man bleeder. So
those are super cool. Hondas have a plastic master cylinder, so you're not going to use that. Right.
Yeah. No worries. Nice. So what else do we have? What about tires? What can you tell me to do some tires? We've got some tires ready to go for our E36. What can we make sure to do to get us on the track right?
So your tires are your most important thing. They're more important than the driver. They're more important than your radios. They are everything to you. If you don't have success with your tires and wheels, you won't have success. So how we mount and balance our tires is we essentially don't want to have any water inside the tire. I know a lot of tire shops will just they'll grease up the outside rim to help the tire go on, but that water ends up inside the wheel, and then your air pressure really fluctuates a lot because there's oxygen in that water. So we try to make sure our tire shops use basically the Krider Racing double nickel 9 method for mounting a tire, which is very, very limited to no fluid. They have to use some, otherwise you'll rip a tire. Then once it's on, we make sure that our wheel and tire are a happy match. So if they try to put a whole bunch of wheel weights in a tire, we make them dismount the tire and turn the wheel 180 so we can get ourselves to have a pretty natural balance, because we're not trying to add weight to our wheel. We want the wheel to be as light as possible for efficiency. So essentially, we will make that done. Then once we have our wheel weights on, then we use aluminum tape we clean the wheels first and we inspect them for cracks, because we don't want tire shops to just slap any wheel weight on any dirty wheel. They really don't care, right? So we clean the wheel for them. A lot of simple green and rags. Then we put aluminum tape over our tire weights to make sure that that's not going to fall off on the track, because that stuff can fall off. Then your tire's out of balance in a long race. Those wheel weights can end up off your front tire going through your back tire. You don't want to give yourself your own spike strip. So there's just things we do to make sure that our tires will go with the program. And then we use nitrogen. So we evacuate our tires, fill them with nitrogen just for some more consistency.
Nice. Yeah, no, it definitely cleaning the rims. If you have set snows on rims, it's a nice thing for us East Coasters, where you clean them, put them back on. My friend just dropped off his car today, and I'm cleaning the rims that are going to go back on. Throw them on the balancer, go back. I love when people have those like 3 weights here and then 1 weight on the opposite side. I love that. You know what I'm saying? There's no better way.
Yeah, I didn't even bother taking the weights off. I just kept adding weights on.
I literally today I almost got 2 perfect just by peeling weights off the other ones, by seeing where they are. And then I worked with a guy when I was in Colorado that literally had a gram scale next to the balancer. He had specially calibrated so it would show grams, not ounces, not quarters of an ounce, not 5, 10, 20s. It would show the grams. Then he had the dikes and the gram scale next to the balancer. We put brand new.
I need this guy on my team. He sounds like a double nickel niner.
We put brand new Michelins on him. He'd come back 2 weeks later, they're out of balance. I'm like, wait, get out! I just did those. Get them. Yeah, he's the boss. All right, fine. You put it up. You're like, all right, it was 5 grams off. It's fine. Whatever, it's fine. But
wow.
No, I'm a big fan of the tire balance. I just love seeing how people do this. And the one thing I think what you're talking about is that soapy water that they love to use. I know from the European side of it, we use wax, so you don't have as much of that. And that's, you just brush that sucker in, and it's, the same deal as that, my balancer that I bought has the little bucket for the sponge with the soapy water.
Right. Bunch of soapy water, right.
Just totally bone dry.
That's not what you're looking for in your tire.
Yeah.
Water come out of that tire.
No good. Yeah, and I saw somebody did the evacuation where they mount it and then evacuate to get the oxygen out to try to just fill it with nitrogen. We haven't gone quite that far yet.
Yeah, we have that same system. There's an article I wrote about that on Turnology. All these articles I've written, you can find them on robkrider.com. Also, If you go to our racing team website called team559.com, which is double nickel 9 motorsports.com, there's a media links, and that just has every article we've ever done on kind of like all these sort of tips and tricks that a lot of you guys can use and a lot of your listeners can use to kind of help them out to get along the good ideas. Some of the stuff you might read and go like, they're crazy, I'll never do that. And some stuff you might read and go like, oh, it's a pretty good idea, and I'll try it. And a lot of people will improve on our ideas, which is what I'm all about. Tell me what you did that was better. Like we talked about the track map idea. Someone said, hey, why are you making that sticker? Why don't you just use a projector and project a track map on it and just draw it with just a dry marker? I thought that's pretty cool. But then if someone erases something, then you lose the track. So I didn't like that idea as much. But their idea was more efficient and quicker, and you could just change it from track to track. So people put comments in the comment section. I think, oh, they're super cool. And sometimes they just call me so either way, I mean, you can put every one on there. I don't really care.
Yeah, we'll have all the articles we talk about on the episode description, so they can click on one and they'll go right into where they are. So if they can't get there the easy way, they'll get there the other way. So we'll get
awesome.
them to you.
That sounds. You guys are efficient. I like it.
Well, I don't know about that, but we try. We just don't succeed. So one of your articles that I thought was rather intriguing was you had one on a balancing of racing and marriage.
Yes.
Not that we have any married people on our team. You know, I figured the easiest way for me not to have a problem at home was Vicky's on the team, so life is good. But for those of us who aren't quite as lucky to have the CFO of the team on the team, is there any tips and suggestions you can have besides a nice social distancing from the flag girls if you ever win?
Yeah, so I definitely have to do that. There's a lot of podium girls and Optima battery girls. I make sure that we don't take photos with them because that gets Mrs. Krider she's not too happy about that, as you can imagine. But I've had to quit racing a couple times. I was racing, I think in 2010, I was running for Jalopnik, and my job was to basically try different races out every week. So we were going to like Beetle Ball and Endurance Lemons and a Demolition Derby and all these things. So I come home and I'm rough from a race weekend. We got a new trophy. I'm super excited. Adrenaline's up. I'm happy. Our bank account is empty. I've been calling sick to work. I mean, who knows what's going on? My wife's like, hey, if you go to one more race, like, I'm not going to be here when you get back. And I'm just like, ooh, that's not good. So I'm like, okay, baby, listen. I hear what you're saying. Now, I'm currently leading the points championship in the NASA Western Endurance Racing Championship. I got to go to one more race before you leave me. Just let me do one more race, and then I'll quit racing forever. So she agreed to that, which is a very reasonable woman. She's like, okay, you can go to one more race. That race was the 25 hours of Thunder Hill. I didn't tell her that part, right? So it's the longest race in the world. It's going to take a lot of effort and stuff. So, hey, we won the championship. I have the trophy to keep it. I still have my wife. Been married for 22 years. Very, very happy. Actually, 24 years. Almost 24. 23 and a half years. I got that right. Anyways, long story short, the balance is she wanted me being a dad and being engaged at home. And what we found out in our house was stuff wasn't getting done. So we have this term in our house called before Nissan. So before Lemons, we didn't have a Nissan. Then we went to Lemons, we bought the Nissan Sentra SR20, SER, and then like a light bulb would go out, or like, the fire alarm would start making noise, or like stuff would be in the garage, and like those things
Nissan.
never got done. That was all before Nissan. So before Nissan, I was a handy guy around the house, man. I'd make nice shelves and build things. The backyard looked good. After Nissan, that house literally was like a time capsule to the projects I stopped working on when I went racing. So I realized I had to manage, like, okay, I got to keep Mrs. Krider happy. I got to stay married. I got to be a good dad. I got to be a good employee. But I still have to feed this egomaniac race car driver thing that I'm trying to do. So what's the best way to really do that? And so really it came down to clear communication, a schedule, a separate bank account that I'm funded basically by writing articles about racing and, keeping things good and not being a total crazy person and being around. So, and she even realized, like, hey, it's not just the weekend you're racing. Before a Honda Challenge race, she might lose me for 3 or 4 weekends before, 18-hour days at the shop building these cars and make them the best we can to win a championship. So, I've had some limited racing schedules because of that. Like, okay, I'm only going to do the minimum races to qualify for the national championship, so I'm happy at home. Or, and then she was all in for a long time. She was at the Lemons races, cooking for everybody, partying. She really kind of became the team psychologist, because when the team would get mad at me, then they would just go to my wife and be like, Rob's being mean to me again. And then she'd be like, hey, you're being mean to the team again. And I'm like, all right, well, these guys, they got to fix the freaking car, blah, 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 blah. So she kind of got tired of that role. Like, she's like, it's not my job to just make burritos for you guys and have the team cry about you to me. And then I got the motorhome. Her nice motorhome is filled with greasy, dirty guys who don't know how to sit down and take a leak, and the friggin' sink's covered in grease. So basically, like, she had her fun. So now what we do is, in the racing budget, we have a race weekend, right? Okay, it's going to cost this much money to go to this race, to go to Laguna Seca, right? But then I have to then have another weekend we call Mother's Day extravaganza to make up for the Mother's Day weekend we went racing, which is usually twice the length, more budget. So I got to take her out, have a good time, which is great for me because I get to hang out with my wife, who I love very much. So it's all a win for me. But that's how I've had to balance the racing and marriage thing. She may have a different opinion if you ever got her on here. If you look at her Facebook feed, Sarah Krider, she definitely has a different opinion. She's making fun of me right now for doing this podcast with you. So she's just like, whatever, you're doing your stupid racer stuff. I'm like, I'm the champion, baby. No one is less impressed with me being a national champion than my wife. She could care less.
I fully understand. Not the national championship part, but the care less part. Yeah, I got that covered.
Well, it's story time.
Is
a little bit. Yes, it is. So thoughts on how you would like to play the game, the good, the bad, the ugly.
The good, the Ugly, yes.
Yes. And so we'd like to hear some stories about your goods and how you've done so far, your bads. And the bads are, they can be bad, but then the ugly, it usually follows up with a pretty good story. It could be something you've seen, something somebody else have seen, your own experiences. What do you have for us?
Well, the good's pretty easy because I'm quite the braggart, but we've won every series we've ever been in. So we've won overall at Lemons. We've won overall at Chump Car numerous times. We've won at NASA regional races and national championship races and Western endurance races. We've won, demolition derbies. We've run coffin races, Pinewood Derby races for the kids, like whatever it is, soapbox derby. Like our team has won everything we've ever done. So we're very successful, and that's kind of our thing. But we did that through going through a lot of bad and ugly, which is a lot more fun to talk about than the good. So the good is, we do the best we can, and we're very successful. So that comes from a lot of help people working that are behind me, not me. The bad is we were the 24 Hours of Lemons at Buttonwillow with our team. We switched our team to the big sausage pizza delivery team. So we had an Acura Integra. We had this big lighted pizza delivery thing on the top. We had this really cool logo with a pizza box with something coming up to the middle, because there's basically a pornographic film series called Big Sausage Pizza Delivery where you show up and, I don't have my wallet, and things are exchanged, right? So if you could pay for pizza. So we thought that was hilarious, and that was our team theme for a number of races. So we are out there leading the race on day 2, and the race ends at 2 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock we cross the finish line first, and they don't throw the checkered flag. And so we're like, what's up with that? So we're looking back at timing square, like, hey, throw the checker, this race is over, we won it. But right behind us was a second place car. It was a V8 Volvo, and it was going to be close. So they let it go one more lap. And then during that lap, my brother rolled our car over spectacularly, and we lost that race on the last lap of a 17-hour race of Lemons. So that was bad. So my brother was okay, though. We pulled the car out, and we got second place. We got a second place trophy for actually finishing second. Even though we rolled over, we still had that finishing point because we were so far ahead of everybody else. So that was not good. My brother obviously got banned from Lemons for 1 year for the rollover, and it is what it is. Part of our history. We have a great YouTube video of the rollover, the big sausage pizza delivery Lemons rollover. We fixed that car, went back out. Actually, like we told you, we put those body panels in a better car, and then won some other races like the 14 Hours of Buttonwillow. So it was kind of a comeback to go back to that same track after the rollover, and then win with the same theme and car. So we're very proud of that. That was cool. For the ugly, I learned a lot about leadership by basically being a sort of a big tyrant jerk. And so our first ever real around the clock 24-hour race, because a lot of people that don't know Lemons, the 24-hour Lemons, a lot of them aren't really 24 hours long. They're a weekend long, and you race for 7 hours one day, maybe 9 hours the next, and that's it. But some of the races have been true 24 hours. And Chump Car started out with a real true 24-hour around the clock race at Willow Springs, Streets of Willow Springs. So we were like, we have got to do that. We have not won all the way around the clock race yet. It's on our to-do list. We've won everything else. Let's go. So I'm trying to balance racing and marriage and our jobs. And so we're kind of piecemealing this together. Some people live 5 hours from where I'm at. Then Willow Springs is nowhere we all are. So we're like, I'll bring the motorhome, you bring the car, you bring this. We'll just meet at Willow Springs, and we're going to dominate.
Now, before you go forward, how far in to your race career was this particular race?
We'd already won the 24-hour Lemons, but nobody really on the team except for me had a race license, and everybody was pretty new. They'd have probably 2 races, maybe 3 races underneath them at that point. Lemons races. So
because that makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. You'll find out sure enough. So I'm telling the guys, hey, we need lights because we're going to race at night. We need this. We need X, Y, Z. So they're telling me that stuff is done, and we go to a track that no one's ever been on before. So no one on our team had been around that track before. None of us. We're going to race at night, which we've never done before. We have a set of $25 lights from, O'Reilly's that were junk, that wouldn't stay right. So we couldn't see anything. And basically that was a recipe for disaster. So I was already upset because the team didn't show up with the car till 3 a.m. I was asleep because we're supposed to start the race at about 8 the next day. So I'm like, this isn't a good start. You guys are supposed to be here yesterday. Then the car shows up. They wake everybody up. I'm mad about that. The car's not prepped the way I know it needs to be prepped. I'm mad about that. So now I'm angry at people, right? I'm yelling at the team members. Well, what I don't realize is that they're doing everything they can to the best of their abilities. They couldn't get there till 3 o'clock in the morning because they have their own lives they got to balance and so much time to work on the car. But for me, it wasn't meeting the perfection and the level that I knew we needed to be at. And I knew once this race started, that's it. It's going, So we have all our people with our radios on, because at this point we already learned that spotters were the answer to success. And so we got a big fuel cell in the car. We're doing the things right. We have a chance to win this thing. But we go live for the race, and somebody has an open mic on the radio. So one of the problems with having a lot of radios is there's a lot of problems you could have. Someone's on there and they're like, "Hey man, can I get a cigarette?" And like, we're going green flag. So I'm friggin' screaming on the radio, "Get that radio out of his hands!" Blah! So I'm just like angry at everybody. I'm just upset. So I get behind the wheel. I do my stint early. I got us. I think we're in second place. I'm going to sleep all night long. They'll put me back in the car for the morning. I'll bring home the gold for us as the anchor driver at the end and be the big hero, right? So everyone's mad at me because I've been a jerk about the car prep, jerk about they got there late, jerk about the radios, jerk about driving the car. And then I trying to sleep. They keep waking me up. "Hey man, there's this. Hey, I think we have a head gas going. Hey, got this." I'm like, "Dude, handle it. I got to wake up tomorrow. I got to sleep a little bit to run the end of the race." So I finally get up. They finally wake me up and like, "Dude, we need you in the car. We're in 22nd place." I'm just like, "What? I gave you the car in second place. How are we in 22nd place? Like, what in the hell happened last night?" Like, they're just like, "No one can see. We haven't been to this track before. Nah, the lights aren't working. I think we have a head gas going out." I'm just like, "Put me in the car. I got this." Because I drove in the daytime, right? So I jump in the car, I go out, I drive like a friggin' maniac. I'm literally punting other cars off the track. I finally get us up to about 4th or 5th. And then I run out of gas, I bring it in, and I'm like, "There you go, that's how it's done." Well, I essentially just nuke the motor, right? As soon as we turn it off for the fuel stop, that Honda was never going to start again. So my brother jumps in, he's about to fire it up. It just like, it won't start. So they're all, of course, mad at me, right? Because they're like, "You were out there driving like an idiot. You're the one who sees the motor, blah, blah, blah." I'm mad at them. "This is all your fault. This car should have showed up like this." Essentially, like, I just basically was a total tyrant, jerk, a-hole, and I lost my team. Like, I essentially just lost them, everybody. Like, everyone was mad at me. We're all broke. We went to all this expense to go to this race. We're not going to win the race, which is our only goal, right, to win on our team. And so I just learned, like, I'm a bad guy. Like, I had to rethink about what we're trying to accomplish, what was the best way to do it, and I just blew it. I had hours and hours of conversations with my wife and my dad about what a jerk I was, and how everyone's mad at me, and they'll never race again, and all this stuff. And so I had a lot of like self-reflection to learn on that, about how not to run a race team, and I learned a lot about just failing. So from that, we've changed everything we do, how we get things done, timelines. We use, like you guys do, Google Docs, a lot of pre-prep work, so we never have that scenario again where I feel like they've let me down, or I'm letting them down. And so we've resolved that. So that was the ugly, just because it was a failure on my part to not have our act together, and and then yell at everybody when it wasn't going the way I wanted it to, so I could win the race. And that was just selfish, crappy stuff. So anyways, I went back to college. I have a master's degree in organizational leadership. I've learned all this stuff now. I got it.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
So do you have thoughts or tips for newbies to do, good, bads, and uglies?
I do. So like we talked about, we have a big crew. Having a lot of people there will solve problems for you. So if you need someone to just run out to town to go to some place to grab a new part or tool, that can happen with that, which doesn't hurt the function of the team at the track. You want somebody who's feeding everybody. So, we all have these multitask jobs on a small race team where, like, I'm in charge of cooking eggs and I got to drive the car later. If you want to be really effective in the driver's seat, I've learned that I have to sort of take myself away from the team manager role sometimes, or basically the car chief role, and hand that off, because I need to start thinking about what I'm going to do behind the wheel, what my start's going to look like, what lap one's going to look like, how I'm going to manage the tires. So in order to really the human brain can only handle so much, and you're trying to juggle all these balls. Like, did so-and-so get a breakfast burrito? And did they get the sweatshirt from the team? Did they get the right size they wanted? And, oh, shoot, I got to drive the car. Where's my helmet? So you really can't do all those things. So we really just design our team kind of a top-down method where someone is going to be in charge of those systems during the weekend, and I just let them own it and have it. And then after, we'll have a debrief and figure out, like, did that work? What can we do to improve? But you don't really hammer them at the track. We'll just talk about it later. And those long emails that nobody reads that I send out. So I would say that helps you on a team. Obviously, the radio stuff we discussed, not just having a radio to tell you when to come in, but having those eyes in the sky, really watching your drivers the whole time. It makes me a better driver, because I know my brother says it's clear, I just go. I'm not looking at my rearview mirrors, and I'm able to make really aggressive and competitive passes because I trust my spotter. And that just takes time to get that trust. So that's one of the things that really will help. But honestly, prepping the car is your biggest thing. So we have a sign in our shop that says that victory and champagne is found at the track, but races are won weeks before in the shop. And I truly believe that, because ultimately all of our championships were won in our little man cave, boy toy shop where we built these Honda Challenge cars. They were not won by super aggressive driving or heroics behind the wheel. They were really won by just having all the right parts, really, really put together the correct way, lots of alignment, and all the things you need to do to make things all the time. We talked about with the tires, all those things are good. All these different articles I've written for these different websites, we don't just write those stories. We believe in those things. We use those systems for success. So they are proven, definitely. So I would say go through that stuff. For me, I'm a student of the sport. So when I'm at the 24 Hours Daytona, I'm walking around the paddock seeing what Pratt and Miller is doing at the track. Like, oh, that's a great idea. We should do that. When I'm at the 25 Hours Thunderhill, I always give myself at least half an hour every weekend to just walk through everybody's stuff. And I just walk through their paddock like I own the place. I'm just super rude about it. Just walk in there. Oh, that's cool. Oh, where'd you go? Oh, I look at that tool card. That's super bitchin'. I want to do that. Make friends. And I just try to learn from everyone else, because other people are doing it better than I am. I'm just stealing their ideas. I mean, really, we're just trying to take everybody's good idea and improve ourselves. And if you just improve every race, your team will get better and better, and you'll see your standings just absolutely fall up that leaderboard. So I would just say prepare. And they say there's nothing like the last minute to get things done. My partner on Double Nickel 9 Motorsports, Keith Kramer, I was a procrastinator dude. I just like, we'll get it done at the last minute. It always gets done Krider Racing style. That drove him crazy. He's like, no. We need to get this done a month in advance. I'm like, a month in advance? That's crazy. I got to keep Mrs. Krider happy. I can't be working on the car a month in advance. I only got the day before the race to work on this stuff. But he was right. His method to actually get things done ahead of time made us a better racing team. So he is really the one that brought a lot of the organization, and just like, if we need something, just buy it. I'm like, well, I'll try to get it for free. We'll write our story about it. He's like, no, let's just buy this and get it in the trailer right now. We need it. And so he convinced me to do that stuff and made us a better team. So stay organized, have lots of tools, bring a spare car, lots of radios, learn the track before you go there, and you guys will be successful.
Should we bring the cars in running order to the track?
Yes, that car should be able to make already running before. Don't push it on the trailer and think we'll fix it when we get there. That's a bad plan, very bad plan.
So
but I've done lots of times.
So one thing that was tossed around was actually putting the car on the enclosed trailer with people in there, and they could fix it while we were driving to the track.
It has been done. I know a Honda Challenge team that did that. That fixed the car on the way.
Is this a good plan?
No, it's a terrible plan. It's also incredibly unsafe for anyone in that trailer. Yeah. All bad, not good.
So since we're givers, I was thinking that you could use our podcast for your next article on what to do, but just make sure you publish it in April 1st.
Yeah, my Beyond the Red Line column, I'll do April 1st for Terminology. It'll be how success of the racetrack. Build a car in the trailer while driving to the track.
Yep.
From the Garage Heroes, training.
No worries.
So what about your thoughts and tips for newbies that are bad?
So here's the one thing that I've seen. There's lots of bad stuff. Obviously, don't be a tyrant like me. Definitely do that. But I think, we kind of talked about the bad stuff right there in regards to just getting stuff done at the last minute. I'm going to skip to the ugly thing that I see teams do that's really
that sounds good.
This is what I see so many teams do all the time, and I see it at Lemons, Lucky Dog, Chump, AR. It doesn't matter where it is. 25 Hours Thunderhill. And I've even seen teams do it at Le Mans and Daytona. I don't see them. I'm just watching on TV. But ultimately, and that is this. You want to be a cohesive team. You're 4 drivers who want to win the race. Winning the race is beating the other 50 teams on the track. If your goal is to be the fastest driver on your team, if your only job is to race the 4 guys on your team or gals, you will not succeed. And here's why. That's a very selfish mindset, and your only goal is to basically destroy all the resources on the car and take a risk for a black flag and do something stupid by putting a wheel off so that you can have your personal best, fastest lap time on your team. Every team that does that I've never seen them pick up a trophy at any race ever, because that is not the recipe for success. The car has to work well for all the drivers in the endurance race. It needs to be passed on from one driver to the next. When a driver gets in the car, his job is to deliver a running straight car to the next driver, so that driver can use that same car for the next 4 hours to finish the race. We actually we had a lap timer in our car. I took it out because our drivers were just looking at their lap times and trying to go faster and faster and faster, which you think would be a good thing. But endurance racing, it is the wrong thing. So Rob Krider, manager, yanks the lap timer out. We don't tell people what their lap times are. We just tell them, I like your pace, do what you're doing, or slow down, you're where we want to be. We do not play the lap time game, and we don't race each other, because that is not victory. So if you guys are guilty of that, stop doing that.
Well, they're always faster than me in the pits. They've always been faster than me in the pits. Always. I've never.
That's because you get all yours on turn 1.
Turn 1 is a problem. I have had some issues. Yeah.
Right? Let's go for some more fun questions. What was your first car?
My first car was a 78 El Camino. Only because it was
No,
my
not
drive.
race car. Not race car.
That was my first car ever.
First.
Yeah. My
Okay.
first car was my race car. I've raced
answer
every
can be
car I've
both.
ever owned. Yeah. Every car I've ever owned in my life has gone racing. It's either hit the drag strip or autocross. I mean, every car. So I actually won a drag race in a Chevy Tahoe not too long ago. ET bracket drag race. I won the whole event.
Nice.
So what's the one thing that no one knows about you that would surprise them?
That's a good question.
I know one.
You know something about me I don't know about myself? Good.
No. Go ahead. I know that you
Yeah,
wrote it.
so I thought you were going to tell me.
You
So
wrote-
yes,
Oh,
I
no. You
wrote
wrote a book?
called Cadet Blues. Yes, Cadet Blues.
Yeah.
So most people know me for my egomaniac racer persona as a writer for these different Jalopnik or Turnology or Speed Sport Life or Speed News Magazine. And so, but really, I've been a writer my whole life. I wrote a column called Man Overboard for the Santa Maria Sun for about 18 and a half years, about kind of like raising kids and being married to my wife and all the fun stuff, some racing stuff in there. And all these stories can be found at robkrider.com. That's ROBKRIDER.com. But I really wanted to write a book, and so I wrote a book called Cadet Blues. It's about going to the California Highway Patrol Academy as a race car driver. So it was kind of me going through the driver's training and all the stuff, because I thought I was really the baddest, fastest thing that ever stepped foot on that academy grounds. I was going to show them how it's done. So Cadet Blues sort of goes through the story of my experiences at the academy. It's kind of a military style, boot camp style academy, which I was not really used to that sort of lifestyle. And so it was a big kind of culture shock for me. But I will tell you that the book is very funny and it'll make you laugh no matter who you are.
I love it.
Nice. You worked on J turns and some other good fancy police maneuvers there. Is
Yeah,
that the
so
deal?
we learned to do the pit maneuver. We actually got to spin each other out, which is super
solid.
The best thing they did for me there was we did what's called Night Code 3 pursuit training. So you're sitting in a patrol car and you've got your radio on. It's a full roll cage race car, basically. And there's a huge mock neighborhood at the California Highway Patrol Academy with a racetrack. This guy pulls up in the sedan. He shoots you in the face with a water gun, tells you to F off, and then the chase is on. So your job is to chase him, not lose him, and then you have to give the license plate out to dispatch and tell him every single road you're on while the two of you drive like maniacs in this race row. So my goal was basically to get that guy and get his plate, which I did. But ultimately, like after about 30 seconds, it was no longer like cadet and instructor, and it was like just two, like just egomaniac race car drivers going for it and just destroying taxpayer money in cars, as we actually destroyed these cars, chasing each other through this mock neighborhood at night. Super fun, like probably one of the funnest things I've ever done behind the wheel of a car. And I've done a lot of crazy things.
Nice. That sounds awesome.
I like
It was
it.
fun.
So
You can find it on Amazon.
nice. Cadet Blues. Awesome. All right, so it pains me to say it, but they make me do these things. Automatic or stick?
Stick. I can't believe we even
I
have
know.
this conversation.
I know. I feel
I
bad
know,
about it too,
right?
but it's just what we have to do sometimes.
Oh.
You've talked about your love for front wheel drive. So are you sworn off the Miatas? Are you sworn off? What do you think? Talk to me.
So I mean, I'm a car slut. I'll drive any car anyone puts
Mm.
me in the seat of, so I really don't
Good
care.
choice.
I love rear wheel drive. I love hooning my Z06, and I've had a lot of fun with my Mustang, and just I like big horsepower cars, and sliding them around and drifting is the greatest time ever. But to be honest, I have more championships and trophies in front wheel drive cars than I do rear wheel drive cars. I
Nice.
think that is because front wheel drive cars, you really can't hoon around and show off as much. So instead of like putting on a show and drifting by the paddock as you're waving out the window, you just gotta like drive it and try to win the race. So as much fun as I think rear wheel drive is, I've just found more success in front wheel drive. I think it's just because it really makes me be more conservative and more kind of stringent in how I drive it.
Nice. So yeah, if you haven't seen our stable of race cars, our 04 Chevy S10 has a mini spool in the back, and it's beautiful.
Outstanding. Yes.
We took it down to Road Atlanta, and Vicki, I think, started to get the feel for like trusting it, and I know, I forget where it was, somewhere we were in the rain, I think it was Pitt, and I could literally feel like each tire grabbing as I'm coming up and around the turn, and it was tell me about that, Vic. What do you think about that?
No, when you start actually feeling, like you said, you feel all grip on the ground, and you just feel the car take off. You feel the grip. The issue that we have with our truck is that and I've mentioned this before, everyone, is that we have a large fuel cell in the back, the very back, that sits right above the suspension. So as it lightens up on fuel, you get more play in the back. It's not like it's sitting in the middle. You have
Absolutely correct.
You have to manage that at the same. You have to know that going in, that this is what's going to happen. You're going to end up having more play the less gas that's in there.
Yep. But like I said, it's all about the diff. It's all about that diff. So that spool rear end, I second that all the way. We run a plate LSD diff on our Honda Challenge cars from Synchrotech M Factory, and for me, it's really all about that. I mean, that's really, you're going to find more speed in any race car with a differential than any other bolt-on part you can find.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have a great time running that truck. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you will get to ride that truck, hopefully.
Yeah.
Someday.
So everybody's got one. They either have a car that got away that they miss, or a car that they wish would get away. Depends on their point in life. Is there a car that you look back and say, missed that thing?
My C6 Z06 was awesome. It was everything I wanted it to be. It was dangerous and sexy and fast and all those things. I was glad to see it go, because it was going to end my life for sure. So that's got to go. I missed my Bullet Mustang because it was a true GT, which is a Grand Tour, which means I could do everything in it, from road rallies to drag racing to autocross to, open road race. Like, that car could do everything, and it never failed me and got me lots of trophies and kind of helped me move my racing career along. So I kind of appreciate that, but those are the ones I'm just like, I don't know. I just use cars, abuse them, and get away from them. My dad would like to have every single car in the Krider Racing Museum, which doesn't exist, but it exists in his mind. He's just like, oh, why are you selling the Nissan Sentra? We got to keep that. I'm like, for what? It's just rusting in the side of the shop, man. Like, what are we going to do with it? So, you can only maintain and store so many cars. So I make peace with driving cars. I don't think cars should be, polished with diapers and sit in people's living rooms like some Ferraris are. I'm more for driving them. They're built to be driven. I drive them hard. I fix them myself. So I feel like if I want to throw the rod out the side, and I know that they put Rob Right Foot Krider over the door all the time for me on the sticker, but that's my business. It's my car. I'll blow it up if I want to.
Well, you can't really find the limit till you've crossed it, right? Isn't that how that works?
That's exactly right.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like it could be a problem, but I'm just going to stay in it. I just see what happens. And, listen, as an automotive tech, I did this for years. If there's a problem, you got to keep going until the piece falls out, because I can't really tell what it is. Just turn up the radio, keep going.
Yeah, I never bring cars in. They just stop running. My last car I burned to the ground. We threw a number 3 rod out of an Integra B18 motor, and I had to jump out of the window on that. But ultimately, we fixed it. But, I wasn't coming in. I only came in because the fire came to the dashboard. I was like, I guess I should probably stop.
Probably.
It's a good hint. Unless you got a credit card in your Nomex, and then you can just go get more gas.
Yeah. My next race, I'm gonna actually put a credit card in my pocket just for you, Alan.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you brought up something that I meant to cover earlier, but I think we glossed over. You are the first person to express something that I feel inside me, in that I don't have a need to go much faster in faster cars. I'm happy kind of where we are, plus or minus a little bit, as long as I'm near the limit of those cars. So the Corvette brought it back to me and reminded me of that. And I think it was on a podcast I was listening to that you were a guest on. But I heard you mention that, and I don't think a lot of people think that. They always think like, well, how can I get to this car that's faster? And how can I get to this car that's faster? And how can I get to, the 911 GT3 or whatever? And, I think for amateur racers who aren't going to be making their living on this, there's some fault in that type of logic and approach.
Yeah, I agree. I think you probably heard that on the Technic podcast with Peter Hope Lane. We were talking about, he's like, do you want to go faster? And I said, really, no. I said, for me, racing is about competition, door-to-door competition. And so whether that's done at like a Spec Miata speed or Honda Challenge speed versus a Porsche GT3 speed, the racing's still real. You're still drifting the car edge of adhesion to the outside edge of the exit of the track every time. You don't have to be going 160 miles an hour to do that. My dad's in a wheelchair from racing. It's certainly a reality for me, the dangers of racing. We've rolled cars over. I've been on fire, all these things. So I don't really see the need to like go faster in order to be more heroic. So there's sort of like some machismo involved in driving the fastest car at NASA, like you're in the ESR class or whatever. But for me, I don't really need that to do it. I want to win the race I'm in. So if I'm in the E3 class in endurance racing, then I want to win that class. Also, it gets exponentially more expensive. The faster the cars are, the bigger the tires are. I mean, just for the right rear tire, my Vet was $585, one tire. For Honda Challenge tire, it's $189, right? So there's a considerable savings in speed right there. And you get to really run door to door and hard and without putting yourself, what I think is at much more risk for really no more glory,
Right.
There's no more glory to it.
Yeah, it goes up with velocity squared, right? So
absolutely.
Yes. So what about dream car for the road? What are you pulling out of the garage? What do you have?
So dream car of the road, I don't have it yet, but it's on my bucket list. Is basically probably the new Porsche Cayman GT4. I've been eyeing that only because I want to probably get out of like full-blown road racing because I've done it and head to PCA because PCA is just a bunch of old rich white dudes and I want to race those guys and smash them. So I just need a Porsche to do it. Like I just haven't been able to beat them yet because I haven't had a Porsche, but I just need one Porsche and I am going to crush those old guys. I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
I'm going to take their money.
Nice. All right. What about for the track? What are you gonna just pull out of the unlimited budget for the track? What do you got?
So I like your guys' BMW. I've seen them go around the track. They're always very successful in all sports of racing. So both Miata and the BMW platform, rear-wheel drive, engineered well from the factory, lots of aftermarket support, and just do really well. So I've seen the EO class in NASA, and I thought, man, that could be fun. So we actually looked into it one time to make the jump from Honda Challenge to go to an EO E3 BMW or M3, and the car that was built was $100,000, and so I was like, wow, that is $100,000 used BMW. Like it's just out of my budget. I'm just a regular guy with a government job who needs to, keep his wife and kids food on the table. I don't have that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the thing about my race team is that we were built from nothing. There's no super wealthy dude on this team who writes checks and we all run around drinking champagne. We basically scrap and earn every part we get through sponsorship. And, the beer we drink is the beer we get from Tackle Lost Brewing, who bakes it for us. I appreciate that. And every part we have on the car, we do ourselves. So, we get there ourselves. And that's the budget we're in. That's the series we're in. We're doing the best we can with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And we're happy with that success. But to go to the next level, it is just a huge, huge jump. Like we looked at entry fee just for a Continental Challenge race. It's like $15,000 because you're paying for TV rights. So I was like, wow, that's a year of racing in Honda Challenge. I can't even imagine that.
So what car would you like to start a build from?
Probably the same thing. I think the E3 M3 BMW,
Okay.
E36. Not what's one? I don't know. I'm not a BMW, not a German car.
E46 probably.
Thank you. The E46 is the right one. Yeah. I think that car is great. I can see it being successful in any sport. A lot of people are running it right now. If you want to go to AER or Lucky Dog, if you want to win that race overall, you're probably going to see an E46 BMW on the front row.
Awesome.
Batcave Weapon of the Week.
Okay, so we've got a unique situation in that Alan's favorite Batman Tool of the Week segment is being commandeered. We have a guest. He has some expertise that we don't have that I think we should. Rob.
Okay.
Tell me about a vinyl cutter. I need.
Oh, right, the vinyl cutter. Yes. So when I have my Bullet Mustang, each one of those Mustangs is serialized, so they have a special 4-digit number. And I wanted to have that number on the front bumper, kind of like a Celine Mustang. I thought it'd be cool. So I had number 3487. So I went to Fast Signs and I'm like, could you just cut the silver number? It's like 4.5 inches in this like bullet font from the movie. They're like, yeah, of course we can do that. That'll be $75. And I was like, $75? This is a 4.5 inch sticker, man. You can't be serious. They're like, oh yeah, that's how much it costs. I was like, okay, that's not going to work for me. So we started building race cars and we needed lots of different themes and different cutters and different logos and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? We could buy one of these vinyl cutters. I think the whole price was maybe $500 for everything. That was like the machine, the software, a bunch of vinyl. And then the software is pretty intuitive, easy to use. We use Vinyl Master for Titan software. And essentially, we'll just grab the logo. So if I got a sponsor, let's say Carbotech sponsors us, they don't give us the sticker. I just kind of trace their logo, send it through the vinyl cutter, tell it what size I want it to be, and then cut it out and put a backing on it and then slap it on the car. And when we wreck the car, I cut another one out. And it costs us about, I don't know, maybe 17 cents worth of vinyl. So when you see how many race cars we've built over the years and how many stickers and liveries and all these different things we've had, like we have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars had we gone out to a graphic shop. And we had to wait for them, right? And they always build it the way they want it. And a lot of times I'll make a mistake and recut a stuff. So, I mean, I just love our little vinyl cutter. It's like the best tool we ever bought for our shop, for sure.
So and this is me asking, not knowing, vinyl cutter, is there a vinyl printer so you could do multiple colors, or do you print out different layers of colors? I'm trying to figure out how would you get a multiple color design?
Good question. So for the really inexpensive one that you and I can afford, that's going to be a vinyl cutter. It's going to cut one sticker at a time. And then if you want multicolor, you've got to do that yourself. So like our double nickel 9 logo has some silver and orange in it. So I'll do the silver, then I'll do the orange, and then I have like a see-through backing, and I'll kind of just lay the orange on top of the silver, and it takes a little bit of art to pop that on just right. And then you lift that off, then you've got this double colored sticker to go on the car. So it takes a little bit of practice to do multicolor stuff. And sometimes you're like, hey, you know what? This logo is going to be one color.
Looks so much better monochrome.
You know,
so
I like
better.
the monogram look anyways. I think it's a one color logo for sure.
With that car background, it's got to be one color.
That's right. For sure.
All right. So we had a couple of our listeners and past guests knew you were coming on, and they had some questions for you. So I don't know if you're ready, but we'll see. So let's call it Honda Dude writes in and says, what differences do you see when competing on a national level versus a local level? And could some of those things you've learned and help us at the local level?
All right, Honda Dude, absolutely. So I'll give you a quick story here. When I was autocrossing my Bullet Mustang in SCCA, I'd pretty much won every race I'd been to. I'd done some national tour stuff and pro solo stuff, and I just thought I was the fastest thing that ever touched the wheel of a Bullet Mustang. And so I thought, hey, I want to go to the national championship and pick up myself a national championship trophy. So I towed my Mustang all the way to Topeka, Kansas, where I got no trophy. And I think I finished 12th place and came home with nothing. So absolutely got stomped at the national championship. That was a learning experience for me, an ego bruiser for sure. But instead of taking it personally, I just said, okay, what am I not doing that these guys are doing? So I looked at car prep, alignment, car choice. I was really basically just getting killed by Camaros that year. 1LE Camaro Z28 really fast. So it wasn't me, it was the car, right? But anyways,
it's always a tool.
Long story short, I realized like, wow, the level of prep that these guys are doing and the amount of races they're hitting a year and the amount of work they've done, and they set their cars up for that surface. I didn't know about that. I was running on a parking lot surface. They're running on an airport surface, very different car setup. And I was behind the ball on that all weekend long and never got around it enough to catch up and win. So from that experience, I thought, okay, the national championships in any series is the real deal. So you've got to just go and run against those guys. So like Dylan Brennan, he was on your show. For him at the national championships this year, he raced against us in Honda Challenge. He was like, it's basically like Rocky IV, right? So we were Ivan Drago we had the shop, we had a garage in Mid-Ohio, we had all these tools, we had beer and all these fancy flooring. He was parked in the mud.
I see the resemblance. So.
Yes. He's parked in the mud, and he's Rocky, right? He's working out in the hut in the Russian snow farm, like earning, the fight. So he really like busted his butt to go up against the monster, and he got on the podium. The only difference between the ending of this and Rocky is that he didn't beat us, but so Ivan killed him in this particular one. But he was a guy who has been basically doing everything he can to make it in Honda Challenge, and against the odds, he didn't have the resources that we had over a decade of racing in that series. So he was against it, and then got to share the podium with us. So I thought it was a super cool success story, and he's a great guy. He does his own articles as well on EJ2 Track Rat, and just really inspiring to see him. It was really cool to meet him face to face, because we're all kind of friends on Instagram, and then suddenly we're at the national championships together, and we all learn stuff together. And I think he learned as well, like, wow, if I'm going to beat these guys, I got to realign my car after every session like they do on a garage floor, not be parked in the mud.
So for him, it was more like Rocky 1 than Rocky 4.
Yes, it was Rocky 1 for him. Yes. So there was no Russian.
Oh, no Russian. All right. Well, hopefully on the next time he goes to nationals, he can wear some flag-colored pants.
Yeah, I used to wear the Apollo Creed pants. That'd be pretty great.
That'd be good. That'd be good. We had several people write in saying thank you for all your articles on Speed News and other areas around the interwebs. So just wanted to make sure they popped in and said thank you, and they were appreciated. So.
That's cool. I guess I'll keep writing them, because like I said, I know my dad reads them, and I know my wife doesn't. So I know one person reads them. So if someone else is reading them, I guess I'll just keep doing it. Super cool.
Great. I like the one addition I would say to your website that would be kind of nice is if you could put like an RSS feed that would let us know when a new one comes out. That would be spectacular.
Cool. I will look up what RSS feed means, and I will make that happen.
I don't know what it is. It was just it was an option on our website, and I was like, oh, okay, that works.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll do that. I think people can subscribe, but I'll make that happen for you.
All right.
Awesome.
We had another listener write in. How do you choose an engine builder or a machine shop? Because we've heard about this machine shop, but I've run several, and I've worked at a few machine shops, and they would never touch anything that we deal with. So
right.
It's I think this is a different word of machine shop than what I was talking about. So engine shop and machine shops.
So that's an excellent question, because what happens in that engine shop or machine shop will ultimately result in your success or failure. So I've been very lucky. So we have a machine shop called TEM Machine Shop in Napa, California, which is run by Rich Olivier. He's a great guy, and he builds all our engines. But basically, we've had some great success with him. We've had some problems too, just because of communication, right? So I've learned that communication is the key. So the first thing is, if you go to a machine shop, go see where the engines are built. And so at TM Machine Shop, they have a separate room that's like sterile clean, like a surgery center, and they have separate benches and all these toolboxes for that motor. If you see a machine shop that's building these things in the same place where they're grinding on stuff and throwing metal in the air, that's bad. If you just see buckets full of parts and there's just no rhyme or reason to it, that's all bad. So you really just want to find, if you feel like, if you walk out of that place and you don't have a good vibe, don't leave. Get your motor and get out of there. Race shops will do it. They're actually more pricey. For me, I found that just when I'm having Rich build a motor, I usually just go there and sit there and do it with him, because I learn a lot from the process. But also I can be super anal about what I want. I'm like, hey, can we check this and what that is? But what's also very important to understand is that engine builders don't really care if engines are legal for a series or not, because it's not their job to care. Their job is to make motors, fast motors. Your job as a competitor is to make sure that your car is legal for the series you're running, especially in Honda Challenge. So I'm always one saying like, hey, I know this would be super cool, but it's not illegal. So we have to use this component as well. We have to use this component. So you're just sort of managing the parts coming in, the resources being done, when it's going to be done. A lot of us have had that thing where you're like, you're trying to do your build, the race is coming up, and you're calling the machine shop. They're not answering the phone because your motor's not done yet, and they'll be done whenever they feel like it. So that's an always ugly moment. And we've all then we're doing that late night thrash, putting the motor in the car night before the race. And that's not a recipe for success. So find a machine shop that you can trust. Good communication is key. Communication is key. And then go and learn as much as you can about the person doing it, and hang out and see how it's being done. I learn a lot from the guys at the machine shop. It's pretty cool.
Cool. Very good.
What is the DNN and IPA?
Double Nickel 9 IPA.
Yes, Double Nickel 9 IPA. So we talked about that a little bit. Basically, it's a local brewery right by where I live called Tactical Ops Brewing, and they make beer, and their beer is super good, and it's super high test. So when we'd finished SEMA and the Corvette days, we were going to move on to Honda Challenge, the brewer, Brandon Broussard, he made this brand new IPA. It was a double IPA, He's trying to come up with a name for it, and we had just transitioned from Krider Racing to double nickel 9. And so he got the alcohol content up to 10.9% ABV.
Oh, geez.
So, but this stuff doesn't taste like that. It's like super, super smooth. It tastes like about a 6%. And so essentially it's dangerous because you get loaded on the stuff. So he got it up to that. We had this new team. He goes, hey man, why don't we call it double nickel 9? It's a cool name. I was like, let's do it. So
yeah,
they called it double nickel 9. Then he's like, hey, can we put a picture of your race car on the beer label? I'm like, please, that would be like the greatest honor ever. Let's do it. So the beer label has our racing logo on it. It has our car on it. And then it's like their most popular beer. And so we take it with us to races. We took a bunch of us to Mid-Ohio. In fact, EJ Tracker drank a lot of it. We got them pretty drunk on it. Anybody who drinks it gets drunk, obviously. We've actually learned to bring kegs of it, and then we make all of our competitors drink it on Saturday night, and I drink water. And then on Sunday morning, when everyone's throwing up on their helmets, I'm fresh as a daisy and ready to win some races.
Look at you.
A little more of that psychological warfare. But Double Nickel 9 IPA has made us do things that we are not proud of. Dumb things. So, we're doing the best we can not to do dumb things anymore while we drink it. So a lot of shenanigans at night in the paddock, as you can imagine.
Nice.
Awesome.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. Well, you haven't tried it yet, but you're more than willing to sample.
Like a dogfish head.
It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our thing is we always do a track walk like you guys do. We'll do a track walk the night before, and we usually bring a bunch of double nickel 9 with us and a little cooler, and just enjoy ourselves some adult beverages and bench racing.
Bench racing. There you go.
Just so you remember much more of the first half of the track walk than the second half.
Very true.
All right, very well. All right. We'd like to thank you for coming on. One thing we wanted to make sure, though, is if anybody enjoyed our conversation and wanted to follow along with you, where's their best places for them to keep track of you and your racing team?
So the best place to go is going to be just Krider Racing on Instagram. I do a lot on Instagram. It's a lot of fun. I like the format of one picture and a couple words. I posted something about you guys today, so that'll be cool to see. And then our team website is just team559.com or doublenickel9motorsports.com. All that stuff will get you there. If you like articles, our team website has lots of videos of cars on fire and upside down, and you can watch our whole documentary film, Double Down, on there for free. Also, if you want to go to see other articles I've written, you can go to robkrider.com. You can buy a copy of Cadet Blues from cadetblues.com or Amazon. If you look on Amazon and you're a Prime, you have the Prime switch, you won't see it because it's not sold by Prime. We have to pay the shipping. Sorry about that. But Cadet Blues will make you laugh. But Double Nickel 9 and Team559.com, we have a lot of content there that I think is fun to watch. Some great Honda Challenge racing videos we've done, and some really good content for, a lot of articles and stuff that are pretty interactive for folks like you and your listeners who want to make their race team a little bit better. Because not all of it's just being a faster driver. Some of it's just having your tools organized a little bit better. And we cover all that stuff on that site.
Yes, you do. And if anybody wants to watch that video, do not go in there waiting for the 7 minutes in the video to be over. I believe it is right at an hour. So it's pretty in depth, and it captures some of the inherent fun, I guess in quotes, of racing and some of the things that you'll experience at a track, and it doesn't gloss anything over and make it seem like a Hollywood movie. It actually happens this way, and sometimes if you're doing it like us, it happens more than once. So it was quite fun to watch one day, and highly recommended.
Thanks. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, the runtime on Double Down is 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's a real documentary film, and it really doesn't hold any punches. We made some mistakes that night, and some things didn't go well, and obviously I got my nickname Rob Rightfoot Krider doing that. But in the end, it all came together, and it really is a really good in-depth look at what endurance racing is like for everybody. It is.
It would have been fun to see before we started, but again, it probably is better we didn't.
There's lots to learn there.
There is, for sure. Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming on. Hopefully you had a good time, and we look forward to talking to you again, and maybe we'll come to a race one time, and you can beat us too.
Hey, well, I look forward to that. I know you guys came to Laguna for Lucky Dog, so I always like to run that track. So keep it up, and I'd love to come to some of your West Coast or East Coast tracks, whatever you call that coast, or the wrong coast.
The other one.
And race along with you guys, and good luck in your adventure. And it was an honor to be on the show, and thank you for having me as your guest.
Yes,
thank you.
If you need to do a rear-wheel drive scouting trip, we know a team that's got a couple, so just let us know.
Sounds good. I love it.
All right. Appreciate it, sir. Have a great night.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dominating with Dawson.
So, Ben, we've got jargon. We've got jargon everywhere. I hear people talking about understeer. What does understeer mean to you?
Well, we just recently talked about rotation. So understeer is an under rotation. You throw an input at the car with the steering wheel, and you expect it to do this amount of turning. I turn
Right.
the wheel this much. I expect it to turn this much. That means the car didn't turn as much as you expected. It means the front wheels are turned, but they are just not giving you the angle that you should when you turn. So it means that they're it's pushing. People call it a push. People call it understeer,
Plowing, yeah.
Yeah, so you turn and you just don't get the results you expected. So a lot of times it has to do with how your car is set up, or just in general, if you run into turn one at the R with a school bus, it's gonna push. So
If more predominant in front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or
it's more predominant in front wheel drive. There's there are ways to address it with your suspension setup.
okay.
I've always had rear wheel drive cars. And the Miata I raced and tracked and drove on the street for years and years. That car was terminally understeer car. Right around by the time I sold it, I had it pretty well balanced, but I never got it. I would prefer a car that's oversteering a little bit. I
Okay.
can never get quite enough of that car. We finally with our E30 race car, our endurance car, it is finally oversteery enough. It's not scary oversteery, but we've got a welded diff in there. It's a welded 410, so that thing will really come up off the corner like a scalded dog, and it's kind of fun.
All right. So for Peter at home, he's using a analogy. He's not talking actually. So don't
That's
write
correct.
into.
No actual scalded dogs.
Yes. And if your car is understeering, is there a way? There's probably two ways, right? You could probably adjust the setup of the car, or you could adjust
Yes.
your driving. So let's put setup on this side. Is there a way to adjust your driving to minimize or deal with understeer?
I mean, sure. The easiest thing to try is if I've been hammering away at this corner the same way over and over again, and I'm not getting the turn in, I'm just going to try something different. So first thing I would try would be backing at the brake zone. So if I'm braking at the 3 and I can barely get turned for the corner, and the car's just pushing all the way through, it might mean I'm asking more of what the front tires and the front brakes and the whole car can do, trying to get through there. So maybe I need to back it up a little bit. So a lot of times I've definitely faced understeer in several different kinds of platforms, racing different cars, and you just have to change something. But a lot of times the easiest thing to change is braking a little bit earlier, turning in a little bit differently, maybe waiting a little later to turn in and throw a bunch of angle at it. Whatever you were doing is not working. So try something different. But those are try changing one thing at a time about your approach and see how
Okay.
it goes.
So it's not always the car. Sometimes it's the guy behind the wheel or the girl.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could just definitely be not. You might be a new car to you or whatever, but if you're not feeling it, I drove the Knox Vegas Lowballers Hoopty Corn. That's that
Yep.
Contour with a first gen Mustang body welded onto it. And it's a front drive car. It's got plenty of power and it had a pretty nice diff in there. But still, it took me a while to kind of get used to how it wanted to yank me up off the corner, and I just had to kind of keep adjusting inputs until I kind of got to where it was working the way I wanted to, and I was out there, I was able to get faster and faster, and I think I was the fastest car on the track until it suddenly wasn't.
Oh, that happens. I'm usually the fastest car on the track until somebody else goes on the track. So.
There you go.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Dominating with Dawson.
Ben, it's jargon day again.
All right.
We talked about rotation. We talked about understeer. Let's talk about oversteer. Oversteer is
sweet
other than understeer, obviously.
Loose
but
is
what does it
fast.
mean? Loose is fast. I've heard that too.
Whew, man, give me that wheel going the wrong way in my hands. I love it.
Little oppo lock to throw more jargon into our jargon.
Yes, opposite lock. Your wheel is locked in the opposite direction of the turn. Yeah, gosh, I love oversteer. I never get enough of it. But I mean, you get to a point where it's counterproductive. But what it means is that you've turned the wheel a certain amount, and the whole car, mostly leading with that butt end, turns more than you expected to turn with how much angle you gave it. Does that make sense?
It does. So it's kind of what I always thought was, oversteer was always, to me, implied when they talked about rotation. But we talked about rotation earlier, so maybe I was wrong about my jargon.
It's an over rotation, just
Yeah.
like understeer is an under rotation. So it's an over quantity of what you thought you were going to get. And there are plenty of factors that could get it. You might have your rear tire pressure set at 100 pounds each or something like that. You're just spinning your wheels coming off the corner. Or, it might be something that has to do with your approach. Maybe you're trying to get on a throttle way too fast and your car's just kind of breaking loose.
So basically, your front has more effective traction than your rear.
That's right. You're overrunning how much rear traction you have, so the rear tires want to break loose.
Okay, so
you might have it on your way into a corner, middle of the corner, on the way out. Same thing with understeer. It could occur anywhere, but it's a symptom.
That's a good point. So if we were in a car and this car's showing oversteer and it's either more than we want or not helping us with lap times, what could the driver do to adjust to reduce the oversteer?
There's cars playing around out in the street. I'm just looking to see what's going on, making sure nobody's cutting donuts in the street because I want to be out there if they are. That's
we'll send you out after them if that way you can show up to it the right way.
I'll report back next week. Sorry. So something you could do if you're going into a corner and you're getting on the brakes in the car and you're trying to turn in and the car just really wants to oversteer. One thing you can definitely do is back it up an entire brake marker. So if you're braking at 3, come in and try it at the 4. I mean, for most of us talking here, it's an HPDE or an endurance race. It doesn't matter. It's you're going to be out there for a long time, and trying a slightly different approach is not going to keep you from getting a trophy. So try something different. Change one thing at a time with your approach and see what happens.
But what about the F1 scouts that I'm trying to impress at my Lemons race?
They're going to know what's going on. It's fine.
All right. All right. Oh, they realize I'm dealing with inferior equipment, and they see
totally. It's not their first day at the track. They're gonna blame anything but you. They're there for you. So you do you. They're gonna get it. Don't worry about it.
All right. I just don't want to lose my multi-million-dollar ride.
Right. Yeah, sure. And that's a concern, but main concern is not breaking the car.
All right. Very well. All right. Thank you, sir.
And then Bill ended up reaching 3-Pedal Mafia and asked a ton of questions. They're like, "Hey, why don't you be on our show?" And
represent people who don't know anything. I'm like, I can do that.
I am your demographic.
Right, exactly. So what we found out was that there was a great need for people who just want to enter the sport, but they didn't know how to enter the sport because they had the lingo, the jargon, where to get certain things, what are your resources, and when you're in it, you already know these things, but when you're not, you don't. So even efficiently setting up a paddock was a learning curve for people in our demographic. So basically what our podcast is, okay, we're getting you off and we're getting you there. This is a really great sport. Learn from our mistakes, and there are a ton. Do this, don't do that. And everybody's kind of experiencing our growing pains as we're doing stuff. And we document.
Yeah, and it's entertaining to watch as well. So
it really is. So
Learn
like
through our pain.
Right. Like our next, and we offer up the tips and tricks and everything that we know. Plus we have people who know a lot more than us on, because that gives them more information. But now it's like our next one is we're going to be starting our very own build. We've never done a build before, but we're going to document the whole thing and see how it goes.
Great.
Right.
Yeah.
Because our basics thing is you can do this too. It's not that hard. You just need to have a starting point, and these are the starting points. And, don't do this because this was a bad idea.
Right. Well, watching you try to get that wheel bearing out of that BMW, that was pretty entertaining. So. I think that kind of content will continue to bring you more and more fans for sure. It's really good.
It's pretty horrible. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, it's not over yet. There's more to come. And that was just a momentary lapse in reason here. We're still at it.
It's still together, by the way.
Yeah, we're still. It's There was just a to be continued. It's still a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I didn't see it actually come out. I just saw people
No,
banging
it didn't.
on it.
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I
That was
broke
still
the
one.
debacle.
I broke
But I
the
did through
trailer
this.
rod. But
Yeah. Broke the trailer
Yeah, I
rod.
saw that.
And through that, I had managed to totally take off our rear suspension. I've never done that before. But now I know how to work.
Suspension was.
Right. I had
Right,
no idea.
right.
Now, because Alan is actually teaching me much like he is right now. And I'm the legs on this end. So here's me, got the book out now, taking the whole thing. Okay, now I know rear suspension. I know how to take apart a rear suspension in a E36. So this is what we're teaching everybody. It's really not that hard. It's just
Actually, suspension. It's just they're big bolts, but there's not that many of them, so it's
Right.
really not a big deal.
They were all rusted,
Al-
so that's nice.
yeah.
Yes.
Alan taught me sequencing.
Sure,
what
there's
to
two.
work
Yeah,
on.
she first used the remote diagnostic unit. Now she's in my remote repair unit. So we're all
Outstanding.
See,
Yeah.
now
keeping our distance. That's all.
the second level of this, the ingenious part is, listen, if we can get other people who don't know what they're doing, then we can actually beat somebody.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
No, we have learned a
Just great.
ton, and we've had great people on, and we've learned so much so far, and so people around us. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Oh no, I'm super excited to be a part of it. I think I can maybe help with that a little bit, just because I have sort of a bunch of stuff already written that people can read and look at. So
Mhm.
do?
along the same lines, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I
We'll
can't
be
wait to
talking-
read your book.
All right, awesome.
Did we order it already, or is that
No, we're
still-
gonna order it. It sounds
Oh.
pretty good. Here it comes
It will
down.
make, I promise you, it'll make you laugh.
This is my little sister Jen.
Hello, Jen. How you doing?
Jen's on quiet.
Good.
Oh, there she is.
I gotta do
There
one
you
thing.
Yeah.
You
Hi.
can I just say that you're both at an age where my little sister Jen doesn't really apply. She's like 1 year younger than you.
I know.
When you were 13 and she was 12, okay.
Mhm.
When you were 20,
Well, she didn't say baby sister, so I mean, work with her. Come on,
I
man.
guess,
I mean,
you know.
like saying.
okay.
All right, we ready?
No, but we're going to do it anyway.
Okay.
So,
It stopped us before.
so we apologize. We apologize to Rob right now.
Oh, there's no reason to apologize. This is how podcasts go.
Okay, very well. All right.
Okay,
see-
got it.
You should see some of the scary questions we've had in this file before, so don't worry.
Yeah.
We're not going to ask you how did you come up with your Instagram handle of not my boyfriend's car. So,
Yeah.
That's a great handle, though.
That
It
is a
was.
great handle.
She got rid of it. Oh
Did
my
she?
God. Yeah.
It's too bad.
I know.
Maybe it became her boyfriend's car and then didn't work. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Alphabetical order for our names.
Verse.
Jen's on.
Verse.
Loading. Don't make me go first.
It's reverse. So it's Vicki, then Jennifer, then Alan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go first, then Jen, and Alan. Okay.
You people absolutely kill me.
Jennifer is a new addition to the podcast on a regular basis now, so we've been kind of jumping around with introductions, trying to fit her in.
Awesome.
She's
Look at
about
that.
the size of a Backstreet Boy too, just in case you wanted a full reference. I don't know. I mean, it's close. I don't know.
Look at that NASA Northeast T-shirt she's got there from Watkins Glen.
That's right.
Oh, you're representing NASA. I like it. Very well done.
Mhm.
Yes, that was my goal for this season, to be a NASA qualified and trained instructor. I don't know that we're gonna have any time.
Yeah, that's
to do
going to
it.
be bumped back.
That's the goal.
Be nice to see the track. Hello, track. How are you?
Well, you guys have your own track. Oh, she's drinking a beer. This is going to be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
You guys have your own track right by the shop, which is
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite as much fun, but
well, that's an enormous.
But it is
advantage.
something that he says,
It is
sure,
something.
go ahead. I'm surprised you know that. That's awesome.
Yes.
told
Yeah.
you he's been silly enough to listen to this thing, so who knows
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, we've actually been having a good time with that.
All right.
That's cool.
So
Okay.
so Vicki,
Yes,
let's pretend we're here to have a podcast and not just
we're
talk.
ready.
Okay, very well.
I'm here. I'm all in.
All right, we're good to go.